listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Now it's time for our host, Nate Manson.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate here with you, and Aaron is here as well. And what an array of fucking talent we have on the show this week. You thought a three-man booth was crowded. It is a four-man booth on this week's edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Aaron, say hello, and then we'll get to the special guests.
Hello.
All right, those were your instructions,
and
you did well.
This is like a WCW 1997 pay-per-view.
I was thinking the same thing.
First guest of the evening, you recognize him from the We Can't Wrestle live show. Chris Wood, welcome to the We Can't Wrestle podcast, your first edition of the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir, we're glad to have you. And, of course,
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Our other special guest, the one, the only, the voice of the era, Mr. Archie Mitchell. Archie, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Always a pleasure to be on, Nate, and it's great to be on with Aaron and with Chris as well.
So,
welcome to the party, pal.
So the
Try to think of other not shitty movie quotes, other random movie quotes.
Well, I'm only here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I stopped kicking ass like an hour ago, so if anybody got any gum, I'm good.
I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of ass.
Yeah.
I see how this is going to go.
Like you had any doubt. Like you were going, wonder how this is going to go.
Well, I was going to mention also, Archie, not only of the Era Facebook group, but of AJM Customs as well. And I know Aaron just recently got some customs from Mr. Mitchell and was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you never messaged me. Did you ever get Arn Anderson in the mail, and was he in one piece? Because I get worried about the post office.
Oh yeah, it was excellent. Thank you.
All right, good.
Sorry for not messaging you.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. I sent Pat a custom Patrick Mansonetti from the Era, and the funny thing is like 4 days before, someone else had sent him a custom, and the head fell off when it got there. So I sent him his custom, and I asked him, I said, tracking said it got there, did it get there safely? He's like, look, as long as the head didn't fall off, we're fine. So he messaged me 3 hours later, and he said, son of a bitch, look what happened. And he shows me the head fell off, and I was like, really? The only thing that could go wrong did go wrong?
Murphy's Law. But Archie, as far as custom figures go, or the Era, if you want to let the listeners know here quick at the top of the show how they can contact you, how they can get a hold of you and your wonderful work that I have a couple of pieces of in my collection as well, before we get started.
Well, they could either join the Era Wrestling Group on Facebook. Just type in the and then EAR. It's for wrestling, memorabilia, sports, everything of that nature. They could also find me on Facebook at just Archie Mitchell, not one word, there is a space, or on Instagram at ArchieNJ38, all one word. And I thank you, Nate, for allowing me to come on and give myself shameless plugs like I'm Mick Foley, and I'm saying thank you, Philadelphia.
I shameless plug everywhere we go, and you will hear you will hear me on the show whoring out our YouTube page. And I do want to make an announcement this week. I have not actually started building it yet, but and Aaron and Chris are hearing this for the first time. So is Archie. This week I bought a domain. We are going to have a website. WeCan'tWrestlePod.com is coming in 2020. So
congratulations! That's a great move.
Things are moving forward, and our YouTube page, of course. Join the YouTube page, click subscribe. There's going to be exclusive content coming up on that as well, as in watch-alongs with the hosts and different things that I'm planning for the YouTube page. And if you're not a member, if you're only a member of the Facebook page and you're not a member of the Facebook group, join the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group as well. We have a lot of fun. These guys can attest to that. We have a lot of fun in the group, and I give away free shit all the time. I'm going into debt for this thing, but it's fun, and I love it. I love my listeners. You're the best audience in podcasts. Now, getting to the...
I got a question.
Oh.
I got a question for Arch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever made? And I know they have a Hasbro that's already Kerry Von Erich, but have you ever made a custom Kerry Von Erich?
I have not yet, and
Okay,
the reason I say yet is because I have yet to really find a body that reminds me of Kerry Von Erich that is not that tornado punch like him and Tatanka had on the Hasbro. I've seen guys use Ultimate Warrior Series 2, just the chest, and then you have used the tornado legs, and then did a claw hand, and then a fist hand, and it's great, but once you mash up so much, it becomes a Frankenstein, and parts have a chance of falling off. So
Kerry Von Erich did kind of look
what
like
I was going to say.
Frankenstein.
No. This is my thing. I'm going to say that they have like some of the heads are detachable. It needs a detachable foot.
yes,
You open it up, and it's like, the foot fell off.
Gosh.
Yes. I actually saw someone on Instagram about a week ago selling a Legends Kerry Von Erich, and I don't know, and it was in Minton box, and I don't know if they took it out once or what, and I'm not joking, guys, the foot was detached from the figure and rolling around in the box, and I literally laughed harder than I've ever laughed. I wanted to leave a comment so bad, and I said, no, I'll get banned or I'll get yelled at. I said no, and I left it alone.
I just hear Fritz. I just hear Fritz Von Erich right now going, "Damn you, Mitchell! Damn you!"
Could have just commented, "Wow, they made it."
It comes with it just comes with like a dead cat.
Here's the crack up, and because we're going to be talking, Nate, you said we're going to be talking about Intercontinental Champions.
Yes, our 10 favorite Intercontinental Champions.
People are going to hate me for what I'm about to say right now. And I'm sorry to the listeners, to anybody I offend right now. I wasn't a Von Erich fan until recently, mainly because I didn't grow up during that whole, Texas wrestling WCCW time. And the only thing that kind of made me a Von Erich fan was their sons that are in MLW,
right?
Because those two guys can go. They're just like Kevin is the one that's still alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they remind me of Kevin because I went back and watched older Kevin videos of him wrestling, and both of them move like Kevin. Because Kerry was more of a muscle guy. He really didn't go for that speed unless he was in, the ending of the match. So I'm sorry, but I was not always a Von Erich fan until recently.
And I'm going to tell you right now, honestly, if you get a chance to go back and watch a lot of Texas, and I know we're getting off topic here. Well, we haven't got on topic yet, so we're still on topic. If you get a chance to go back and watch a lot of the Texas stuff, actually, Kerry was decent, Kevin was really good, but the best Von Erich was actually David.
Yes.
I think that if he would not have passed away at the early age that he passed away at, he would have been a huge deal in wrestling. That guy was...
I agree with that.
He was really, really good.
Last few months I've watched them against the Freebirds, which is weird because I was a Freebirds fan. So I don't know how I never watched a Freebirds versus Von Erich match.
Right.
My personal favorite Von Erich is Lacey Von Erich.
Really?
Dude,
wait a minute. Do you like Brooke
ever
Hogan?
seen Lacey Von Erich?
Yeah, I have. I watched her in TNA, and she was not anything smoking body, but the face.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying her ability. I'm saying her.
No, but her face. She looked like her. She looked like her dad. She wasn't really wasn't that.
No.
She definitely should have been into Beautiful People. That's all I'm going to say.
Her dad looked like a mentally challenged horse.
Well, she when she put that claw on people, that's what she looked like too. She was I don't know why they let her use that move.
All right, let's.
I was gonna try to get through this show without having a beer, but
too late.
I pissed him off too quickly. He needs a beer.
I'm not pissed off. People can like it.
No, I know.
But Lacey Von Erich is, good lord.
Hey, look, I've heard worse. Josh Blevins, who's a friend of mine and Nate's, happens to love Brooke Hogan, and I don't know why. So, he and I about a month ago. Brooke Hogan is gorgeous. I'm like, Brooke Hogan is Hulk Hogan in drag. She's like, what are you talking about? She's talented. I'm like, at what?
Yeah, what is she talented at?
She's horrible at
Her last
being
name is
wrestling. Yeah, I mean, damn.
She's probably a slightly better driver than her brother. It's like
Yeah.
she's got going for her.
Oh,
Too soon, but yeah, I agree.
It's never
That was
too.
like 4 years
it's,
ago.
It's never.
Yeah,
it's
but-
never too soon on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. We don't let the bodies get cold here.
Yeah.
no, what was too soon was that guardrail.
Oofa! I love it.
I heard Nick Hogan got a job at
This is gonna be so bad.
Chiefs. He's got a job at Chiefs.
The grocery store for those that don't live in Ohio.
Yeah, he works in the produce section. I mean, because he's good at putting out vegetables.
Oh,
Jesus.
okay.
So now that we have given the listeners a
Does he
10
put that kid in a?
now that we have
Good
given the listeners a 10-minute synopsis of how this show is going to go, this week on the show,
Wait a minute. Do we have any listeners left after I debunked the Von Erichs and
No.
you just talked about Nick Hogan?
we're actually having people right now going, "You've got to listen to this." So we're actually gaining
Yeah.
listeners right now.
Controversy creates cash, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah,
Say
they're
what?
telling everyone to listen because of the offlandish shit that we're saying right now, and then by the time everyone tunes in, we're going to be talking normal wrestling shit. They'll be like,
What the fuck?
Fuck.
You promised something good.
We're going to talk our 10
We
favorite.
can't wrestle. It's the first 25 minutes and the last 15 minutes.
Right.
The shit in between, nobody gives a fuck about my opinion.
so Monday Night Raw.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were talking about that Sunday. I haven't watched that shit yet.
This
Well, you
edition.
said just the beginning and the end is decent, and nobody gives a shit about the middle. So I was like, oh, so it's like Monday Night Raw.
Oh, I thought you were like trying to like push the podcast into like a wrestling thing and being like, oh, let's talk about Monday Night. Sorry, I misunderstood.
10 favorite Intercontinental Champions from each host this week, and we're going to round out the show by talking about, and you might be one of these people, and we're sorry. We're not really, but things that people do that make them douchebags.
Nate, let me help you.
We're like Maddie in the
sorry
house.
that you're-
We're
sorry.
like Maddie in the house. Sorry,
Yeah.
not sorry.
Oh.
Come on, you guys know what Maddie in the house is, don't you?
Do you remember Maddie in the House from ECW?
Yes.
Good God.
Oh,
That was some bad stuff.
it really was.
It's tough getting through it. All right, so I'm going to let our guests of honor go first this week. We'll start with you, Chris. Who is number 10 on your list of favorite Intercontinental Champions ever?
I started my number 10 with who I remembered with the belt when I first started watching, and that would be Mr. Rick Rude.
Rick Rude.
That high up? Wow.
So, Aaron, was he high on your list? Because I know Aaron's a huge Rude mark.
Yes, he was on my list. He was not. Well, I didn't put him like in order. I just wrote down the 10 guys, but Rude was on my list. And Rick Rude was a fantastic Intercontinental Champion. But to me, well, let's let Chris say his.
Like I said, the reason I put him at 10 is it's when I first started watching wrestling and I was young. And when you first start watching wrestling, like you're watching it, but you're not really paying attention. You know what I mean? You're just, but he's the one I remember as the Intercontinental Champion just because it was fucking Rick Rude.
And he actually
Posing the attitude, the Intercontinental title on his tights.
Rude, Hogan, Savage, DiBiase. That is rare air. And when I say rare air, that is the four guys that could get a good match out of the Ultimate Warrior.
Okay, I could agree with that.
So, Aaron, what were you going to say about Rick Rude?
See, I'm a huge Rick Rude fan. Always was, always will be. But I don't when I think of Rick Rude, honestly, I don't think of Rick Rude as the Intercontinental Champion. You know what I think of Rick Rude as? I think of him as the United States Champion. I think of him as being in WCW.
And he
because I enjoyed Rick. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say he is one of those guys that we've talked about this I think on the show before. He's one of those guys that I did enjoy more in WCW than I did in the WWF.
Yep.
Yeah. But I did have to scratch Rude off my list because he was on my list. Now he's not. Thanks, Wood.
You're welcome.
No, I'll jump in for a second and say I agree with Aaron. As great as Rude was in the WWE, they were never going to give him the ball to let him run and be what he wanted to be, even though he was with one of the greatest managers, if not the greatest manager of all time, Bobby Heenan.
Which surprisingly, he didn't want to be.
You'd think they would have gave him at least one world title run, even if it was for 2 months, you know what I mean? Just to see how he was with it, you know. But then when he got back to WCW, because he started in WCW in a tag team with Manny Fernandez, when he got back there,
an underrated group.
Right, they were.
Manny Fernandez, Rick Rude, and Paul Jones. You know what I call them? You know what I call them?
What?
They're the MWO. The Mustache World.
Mustache World. I like it. I like it.
Fantastic porn stashes. Each one of them is fantastic.
And I have to say, the first. I thought Aaron has said Mustache World Order quite a few times to me, and it always makes me laugh. However, the last time he said it, and I wanted to save it for a show, even though I wanted to tell him, I wanted to get his organic reaction to this. The last time he said it, all I thought was mustache, mustache, mustache. That's sorry, guys. you were having a good serious conversation there, and here I come in with my stupid joke.
In all seriousness, if I can be serious for a moment, Rick Rude, when he got back to WCW with Paul Heyman, and he debuted as the Halloween Havoc Phantom, and then destroyed Sting and immediately won the United States title. And then they even attempted to put the world title on him, but then they called it the WCW International World Heavyweight title. That was the defining moment of his career. He ran WCW. And while Flair wasn't there and all the other heels were kind of, small time, Rick Rude was making it, in the big time. And had he not got injured, I think he had another 10 years in him and might have ended up back in the WWE to get a world title shot by then.
And he also, his feud in WCW with Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic.
What about his feud with Dustin Rhodes?
That's a good feud. That fucking Ricky Steamboat feud, there's some hardcore shit in there. Like when he bashes him with that chair. And they accuse Ricky of cheating on his wife and doing it. It's a fantastic thing. And I know we're going off the rails of him being the Intercontinental Champion, but
it's okay. I was going to say, we talked about, Archie talked about him being with Heyman and the Dangerous Alliance and all that. If you really think about it, if you look at the beginning, and they kind of lost the focus of it as it went on, even though it was still a great faction. If you look at the beginning of the Dangerous Alliance, it is actually the NWO before the NWO. Because if you remember the first promos, Heyman said, "We're coming in here to literally take over WCW."
Yeah,
he talked about how he had investors and they were coming in to take over WCW. So it was kind of a trailblazer, really.
Yeah, and it was cool that he was with Heyman and they were good together. But a lot of people discount Rude and Medusa being together.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a good point. Medusa was kind of his manager, and Heyman was his advisor, because Heyman wasn't always at ringside.
Yeah, and even after, Heyman had, the beef with Medusa and was, calling her a bitch and this, that, and the other thing and all that, Rude stayed out of it, but Medusa was still with him. You know what I mean? It was kind of a cool thing, because Rude was well, Heyman's my financial advisor or whatever, but Medusa's my girl. they're feuding, but he's still with both of them, and he's just like staying out of that shit. It was good stuff.
They were all heels, but yet you could see like maybe they were trying to tease one of them going face, but not really. And then they just decided to leave Rude heel. There's no reason for him to be a face.
Yeah, 92 WCW is underrated.
It is, but that's because they weren't really. I mean, I just watched a thing on YouTube recently that the WCW executive or the TBS executives weren't really caring about WCW enough until Bischoff took over. So at that point, it didn't matter how great they were making the product. They weren't going to give them any more time or another show or anything. So it is underrated because TBS wanted it to be underrated.
Yeah.
Okay. Look what you did, Chris. Good pull on Rick Rude.
Well, the thing is, like I said, me growing up, I was never really WCW because I watched it with my stepsister's dad, and he watched WWF, and that's what I always watched. So I didn't really know anything about WCW until late. So, I mean, a lot of these guys, where you guys go on these WCW tangents, I'm just sitting here like, I'm getting educated because I never really was a WCW person growing up.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth going back and watching, especially, I think my favorite WCW isn't the Nitro era. It's actually from probably 92, well, 91, 92, 93. There's some garbage, but that's every wrestling promotion.
Actually, WCW is pretty good until like 94 when Hogan got there.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, if you want to watch just a oh man, I don't even want to say standalone because there's good stuff going into it. Like, to me, the like apex of WCW is being its own thing. I shouldn't say own thing. Like, being different within the WWF, like being a different presentation. The last great WCW thing is Spring Stampede 1994. That's when WCW ended for me.
What was the main event of that? Because I can remember what the whole card.
The main event of that was Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat.
Yes, when they reignited their feud from the 80s. Yes,
yeah.
Wow.
And like, it's just a fantastic pay-per-view. And if you just want to watch a standalone WCW pay-per-view, go watch Spring Stampede 1994.
It's interesting that you say that because I just recently was watching a lot of older WCW, and Flair was again playing that heel face, and when Steamboat came back, he was still trying to be a face, but Steamboat brought so much out of him, because their matches were unbelievable no matter when they fought, that Flair had to be the heel because the fans were cheering for Ricky so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is definitely an incredible pay-per-view.
Yeah, because
like you said, it was the pre-Hogan, you know.
Flair was the face coming into that because Aaron said the Spring Stampede, and I agree that was the Flair Steamboat stuff was great. But to me, if we're talking old WCW, like I think of Starrcade '93 with the Vader Flair main event. And,
that's good stuff.
Flair coming back.
Flair came back and took the belt off Vader. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying that wasn't good. I'm just saying, to me, that's the end of WCW being like
the last hurrah.
Yeah, that's the Bischoff era comes in. He brings in Hogan, and then we get the Dungeon of Doom, which was so good.
Like, WCW was the wrestling show, and WWF was the sports entertainment show, and then Bischoff gets in there, does whatever he does, whatever. And then it just becomes sports entertainment all across the board.
And cartoony sports entertainment. They were both doing some cartoony BS stuff between...
Like Hogan in the Dungeon of Doom, and he's like, the water's boiling, but it's not hot.
Right.
Fuck off.
Throwing the giant off of a 4-story building, but he walks back to the ring perfectly. Like nothing ever happened. How was he not arrested for manslaughter?
Yeah.
And 2, how did the giant just...
Like, I didn't see him bounce back up from that gigantic fucking trampoline. What is going on here?
Bobby Heenan said that Giant should have had a fish in his singlet.
All right, Archie, who's 10 on your list of Intercontinental Champions?
He's a little high, but it's mainly because he grew out of the Intercontinental title, and then the WWE just continued to put it on him.
Sorry.
I'm going to have to say Chris Jericho.
All right,
and Jericho said 9 or 10 title reigns.
Too.
He was on my list.
9 or 10 title reigns, but I mean, in between, he was World Heavyweight Champion, Undisputed Champion, World Tag Team Champion, Undisputed World Tag Team Champion. Like, he didn't have to be the Intercontinental title holder anymore, but they were like, you know what? We need a great mid-card guy. Put it on Jericho.
Yeah.
You know?
Who's going to have
the reason I laughed was because Arch was like, he was a little high. I'm like, well, Jake was never the Intercontinental.
And you leave Jake alone. He's back in AEW, and he might get high again. I don't know.
That's usually
what happens. He said high, and I thought he was going to say RVD. So
oh God, that's usually what happens when Jake gets a little bit of money. So
I bet when Jake walked in the locker room of AEW and he saw Orange Cassidy, he was like, I bet that guy's dealing.
You mean they let the dealer backstage now? Damn. I've been missing out. No, I'm more worried about Jake being back, not because of him getting money, being around the boys again and being around all the wrestlers and probably getting anxiety and then just thinking, wow, I could really use some drugs right now and just running off, you know.
So Jericho, yes, Jericho was on my list as well, because I think that especially during, say, the Attitude Era or the late Attitude Era, the early 2000s, when titles kind of got to a point where they lacked meaning, right. Jericho carried that title with pride, and you believed that he was the best in the world because he was the Intercontinental Champion. And to what you said, Archie, let's go back and put the title on Jericho because we have some younger guys, and the Intercontinental title is the stepping stone to the world title. And why not have Jericho, one of the best workers in the world, work with these guys? One of my favorite Intercontinental title matches ever is, and it's literally a throwaway pay-per-view. The rest of the pay-per-view is kind of garbage, but watch Jericho and Shelton Benjamin at Taboo Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
In 2004. One of my favorite IC title matches ever. You know,
Shelton used to kill it against anybody. I mean,
yeah.
Shawn Michaels, Y2J, it didn't matter who he was fighting. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as long as they brought the best out in him, he'd bring the best out in them.
Exactly.
But, see, this is my only problem and why I'm putting Jericho so high. Whenever he would get back the Intercontinental title and they'd have him at a point where he could start working with younger talent, it would be, hey, let's let him feud with Rey Mysterio again. And it was like, why? Yeah. Why? Mysterio doesn't need the Intercontinental title right now.
That's good shit, pal.
Right. Exactly.
Aaron, Chris, any thoughts on Jericho?
I had him on my list. Like, one of his matches when for the belt involved was him and Benoit with the ladder.
Yeah. That's a SummerSlam, I believe. I think it's Summer.
That wall of Jericho across the top of the ladder.
Yeah. That looked painful as hell.
I think it's SummerSlam 2000, I believe that match was. But yes, absolutely. Aaron?
Well, I mean, Jericho, in my opinion, was like, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing. He was the Intercontinental Champion in that era, and it worked because he was like the 80s, early 90s. It was like, this is the wrestler on your show.
Right.
And so he was the like Kurt Hennig, Bret Hart of like the Attitude Era, at least the Attitude Era when he came in.
Right. Yeah.
That he's gonna, no matter who you put Chris Jericho in the ring with, chances are he's gonna get something fucking out of him.
especially
and he's going to have a goddamn good match. And it doesn't even need to be a match that has any story to it, Right. And I know he had stories and shit, but you could put Chris Jericho in there with anybody, and he's going to have a good fucking match. And that's what the Intercontinental Championship is supposed to be, in my opinion.
Still proven that to this day in AEW. He had a match with Jungle Boy that went 20 minutes, and he made that kid look like gold. And Jungle Boy's great, but he's still young, but he made that kid look like he was a main eventer.
Yeah.
And
he's built like Adrian Adonis now, and he's still out there. Great match.
My wife looked at the screen and said, "Why did Jericho get so fat?" I'm like, "Honey, he's 50." She's like, "He's still a wrestler. He works out." I'm like, "I don't know what to tell
you." He don't work out.
No.
But that match he had with Jungle Boy actually made me a fan of Jungle Boy because I was like, "Shit, this kid can go."
Yeah. If you read Chris Jericho's book when he was talking about getting into wrestling, when you read his book, he's like, when I got into wrestling, I wanted to be Owen Hart. I haven't read his book about when he got into music, but now he's like, I want to be Vince Neil.
Well, I think he hated Vince Neil. He definitely looks like him. Did anybody see the new Jericho AEW figure, a little bit of the bubbly where it comes with the play set with the bottle of champagne?
I pre-ordered it on Ringside Collectibles, yes.
Does he look like Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler to anybody?
He does, yes, he does, absolutely.
Now, when you consider that he had a feud with Mickey Rourke over the movie, and then they made the figure look like that, you think he's like shit, God damn it.
Oh, and side note real quick, Nate, how you were bitching about how they didn't know how to book him. It came out the reason that they booked that match like it is, they didn't want to pull the WWE because apparently he's getting ready to go on tour in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they wanted him to drop the belt now as opposed to how WWE would always have him on a streak until all the advertising for the tour came out, and everyone was like, well, he's going to fucking lose. He's leaving.
Right.
So they had him drop the belt now.
I didn't expect him to lose to Moxley. I thought it was going to be at least a 2-3 month feud, and it still is, but it's not, I didn't expect Moxley to win that soon.
Right.
But that's
I don't hate it,
they didn't want it obvious.
Well, then that's good. Maybe they're doing something different than Vince is, because Vince, I didn't think Goldberg was going to win the title, but I certainly wasn't happy about it.
Ratings, pal.
Yes, some ratings. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. Whoop-de-doo. No world title and no universal title at the Elimination Chamber. Woo! How did Tony Schiavone say it during Nitro? That'll put some butts in the seat.
It's a popcorn fart. Aaron, who's number 10 on your list?
Number 10 on my list is a guy that I'm going to mention because he didn't have a great Intercontinental title reign, but he's a sentimental favorite.
All right.
It's Rowdy Piper.
Good addition.
Good pull, and I'll say this, and then I'll let you guys discuss it. I did not put Piper on my list, but he would be up there for me somewhere because only, if anything, because him and Brett is one of the greatest IC title matches ever at WrestleMania 8.
Agreed. I could agree with that. Yeah, his match with the Mountie was even good because of the story they told when he took off the shirt and the shot. He was wearing the water, the sweatsuit. You know what I mean? And then the jokes that he was throwing at Brett during the whole build up to the match. There was only one piece of bologna in the sandwich, but it was still a sandwich. Thank you, Mrs. Hart. You know what I mean?
That's good shit.
Everything about that match was great. So I will agree with Piper.
And to me, it's great because the guy never needed a title, and he never had one. But he was always, and Nate knows this, he was always in like the top 5 of I'm going to watch everything this guy does. He cracks my shit up. He's fucking fantastic. And I'm like a huge Roddy Piper mark. And just being able to say that he had that time as a champion in the WWF is fucking cool, And it's something that once you get that, you can't take it away from anybody. And he looking back, I wish he would have been like WWF champion at least once. And I understand why it never happened. But it was cool that Piper had at least one title run of some type in the WWF.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
I agree with that. He had the Intercontinental title run in the WWF, like I said, and then they made him tag team champions with Ric Flair in the early 2000s just for the joke of it, I think, because they beat the Spirit Squad. And then I don't remember how they lost the titles. I don't even remember who they lost the titles to afterwards. But the Intercontinental title run that he had, and that was the good thing about when he got the title. He won the title, I believe, was it, Nate, like a Saturday night main event, I think?
It was, he actually won the title at the Royal Rumble. Piper did.
Okay, yeah, at the Royal Rumble.
Because
the same Rumble Flair went post to post.
Yes, because then the big shtick during the Royal Rumble was Piper could walk out of the show as a dual champion,
which would have been awesome to see. And then he had a 3 or 4 month reign because the Rumble to Mania now there was no in between pay-per-view. So even though he was defending the title, it was on Superstars or Sunday Morning's Challenge or whatever. And they weren't going to take the title off of him there. Mm-hmm. So he got a good reign with it. It wasn't just hey, you're the champion, but guess what? You're losing it in 3 weeks because Elimination Chamber is coming up like they do now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Number 10 on my list is going to be a bit controversial, maybe. I don't know. Somebody might agree with me. Or you might all go tell me to fuck myself and put that on the douchebag list. But
I'm going to tell you that anyway, so don't worry about it.
Number 10 on my list is actually a more modern era champion, and it's Cody Rhodes.
I have no problem.
I had him way lower on my list. I had him like number 4.
Really?
Oh, so he's on your list. Okay. All right.
I had him at number 4 because when Cody won the belt, he was doing the whole broken Cody, and everyone was hating him. But he was so devout to bring honor back to that belt, and it brought back the classic look belt.
And that is
people that hated him fucking cheered him that night when he pulled that belt out.
That is exactly why I put him on my list, because in the modern era of wrestling where it's hard to find, I mean, to be honest, guys, we've all been wrestling fans around the same amount of time. Some of us a little later, but we all remember, okay, I can tell you this right now, guys, from when I started watching in 83 until probably 2001, I can rattle off the lineage of any championship.
Yep.
And then you get into the modern era of wrestling. I don't know who was fucking. Sometimes I don't know who the Intercontinental Champion is. Sometimes last week,
right?
Because they
you
don't
have to question who the champion is.
Yeah, they don't make it feel important. And in this, that's why I put Cody in this era, because in this era, his character made that title feel important, and one of the best, to me, honestly, one of the best angles in, like, probably the past decade in wrestling was him and Show going into Mania for Show to win the Intercontinental title. They did such a good job with that. And they don't do that anymore. They don't capture my imagination hardly anymore.
That's what I was going to say. I couldn't put Cody on my list because I don't know who Cody beat for it.
Actually, he beat Ezekiel Jackson.
Yes.
But I had to Wikipedia that shit, so...
I don't know who Cody lost it to.
He lost it to the Big Show at WrestleMania.
Was that the stupid fucking match where it was like a tables match and Big Show stepped on the table and lost?
No.
That's what I
was
remember.
That was the match.
That's how Big Show lost the belt.
Yeah, that was the match. The match where Big Show won it was Cody being a heel in perfection in their angle, because it was built up that Show wanted to get that. He'd always been a loser at WrestleMania. And then he gets his shot at Cody at WrestleMania and beats Cody for the title at WrestleMania.
This is where I'll tell you to go fuck yourself, Nate. Because here's where I have a problem with this. See, I agree with
That's only smoke and mirrors. Go ahead, George.
I see what you did there.
My problem with that is okay, great. We're going to give the Big Show his WrestleMania moment. Did it have to be against Cody, though? I mean, he was coming up and doing something without the legacy, without anybody in his corner. You know what I mean? They threw him in the tag team with Drew McIntyre, which went nowhere.
Right.
Then he got the Intercontinental title, lost at the show, and then what did he do after that? Oh, we're going to put you with Damian Sandow.
Yeah.
So you gave Big Show his moment.
And we're going to completely capitalize on the fact that you grew a really awkward porn stash.
Right.
I didn't say. Now hold on, guys. I said Intercontinental Champion afterwards. We ain't talking about that shit.
No. But I'm saying that they did not have. They should not have shit on his title reign after that, just to give the Big Show a WrestleMania moment. Because guess what? Big Show has had WrestleMania moments, but it was on the losing end. He lost to Floyd Mayweather. He lost to John Cena and JBL and to The Undertaker. You didn't have to shit on Cody Rhodes to get to the Big Show's WrestleMania moment, which the Big Show winning the Intercontinental title didn't really impress me.
Right,
you know what I mean?
And I, it's actually, I will go fuck myself because I say that because I agree with you on that part of it. I guess my biggest point was I thought that Cody did a great job.
He did, and he should have been rewarded by beating the Show like a chicken shit heel and running out with the title and holding it 5 more months.
And you're right.
Till he lost to somebody with more credibility.
But you also got to keep in mind, what's his name?
Rhodes.
Yes, he's a son
Not
of
anymore.
He's a son
but,
of Dream Baby.
Yeah.
So, Chris, who is number 9 on your list?
Number 9 on my list was Owen Hart.
Ooh.
I didn't have Owen on my list, but good pull. Owen
What?
Hart. Nope,
I had
didn't.
him on mine.
I didn't.
I didn't have Owen on my list either.
No.
I had him, I'll be honest, I had him real high up. I had him at number 2 on my list.
Okay. So, Chris, why Owen? And then Archie, and then Aaron and I can eat some crow.
It's going to sound really bad, but for me, I put Owen on there because for some reason they never hold the trigger and let that man step out of the shadow. Mm-hmm. And that's the best shot he got, and he did everything he could with it.
No doubt.
He took it and he ran as best as he could. That's why I put him on the list.
And
because Vince would never pull the trigger. He would never showcase Owen like he showcased Brett.
Right.
And once he got the shot, he ran with it.
Absolutely.
I could agree with that, with what Chris just said. Owen, when he was given the ball, Owen was like a running back that got to get them to just at the 4-yard line, but didn't get to go in for the touchdown. And, it was like, okay, you get to run the ball, kid, but you ain't scoring tonight. Oh, okay, coach, no problem. And it was because Owen was a team player that he would do it. And to go back to what Chris said, he never spotlighted Owen the way he did Brett. And it kind of makes you wonder that whole storyline where Owen would say, Mom and Dad loved Brett best, if maybe he was really saying Vince loved Brett best, because there was never any proof that, Helen and Stu Hart didn't love all their kids the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was.
So it was like they were playing off that Vince didn't want to give Owen the right shot. Owen, as the Intercontinental Champion, or any champion when he was in the WWE, always made a title look special, like you said with Cody. Even with Yokozuna at his heaviest, he made those tag titles look awesome.
Yes.
Matches with Steve Austin for the title when he broke Austin's neck. He still did business and let Austin roll him up and take the title from him. Matches with a Young Rock, matches with Shawn Michaels, matches with anybody, even Diesel. He made Kevin Nash, who could have broke his big toe by taking one step, look credible. More credible than Brett ever did.
He fucking dropped it to Holly. He dropped it to Bob.
Right.
And
I
don't want to interrupt anybody. Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I didn't put Owen on my list because, not discounting what Owen Hart was, okay? Because in a lot of ways, Owen was better than Brett.
I agree.
I was going to say the same thing. Thank you.
I agree.
You're welcome. But Owen was better than a lot of people between the ropes. But a lot of what you guys are saying about Owen, I think, is transplanted into like kind of what I was saying about Roddy. Like,
feel he didn't need the title?
He didn't. Well, the fact that he wasn't looked at as the guy that could, like how Archie said, could get the ball into the end zone.
But how do you know that unless you let him have a shot with it?
Yeah,
you know, that's
but he's the guy that can get you there. But
I think the difference
this guy's like Vince McMahon looked at like a Roddy Piper as this is the guy that can help get Hogan down the field, but we're going to let Hogan spike the ball. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of what it was like with Owen. And I might be talking stupid. I don't know. But
no, I honestly agree with you, but I think where it differentiates between Owen and Roddy didn't have that DNA link sibling monkey on his back like Owen did.
Yeah. And
Roddy honestly didn't need the belt because he also didn't have to try to fucking bust his ass even more to outshine someone that got the spotlight.
Right.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying I'm just saying it's kind of similar in the fact that
it really
this guy's 10 times better than the guys you're going with, but that might be the reason why you don't do it, because he's going to overshine who you want to go with.
Yeah, but see, this is, and I agree with you, Aaron. You actually spoke greatly when you said what you said. Yes, you don't want to put someone at the highest caliber at the championship spot, because then who will ever beat them and dethrone them? But that's where the storytelling comes in. Like, for instance, Brock Lesnar right now in modern era is the unbeatable beast, unless your name is Seth Rollins. They're building Drew McIntyre to be the guy that will destroy Brock Lesnar and making him credible. Had they built Owen to be the world heavyweight champion, and then let's say 3 years after he was, a year after into his title run, here comes Chris Jericho into the company, or The Rock, or Stone Cold, and you build them up to be that, underdog. When they take the title off for him, it means more, as opposed to, Brett didn't have the title for 6 months, so let's let him roll up Diesel at the Royal Rumble and take the belt back. But now he's going to feud with Sid. That's why I say Owen should have been given a little bit more than just a few month run here and there with, any title.
I agree.
I mean, I honestly think they're going to run into the same issue with the IC title right now.
Yes.
And honestly, what I'm hoping for is I pray to God that with this whole handicap thing, that Sammy is the one that scores the pin.
I agree
with
you.
Because then maybe finally people will see that Sammy is an amazing fucking athlete.
Well, it opens up the door to let Sammy now feud with Cesaro and Nakamura and Braun.
Exactly.
Because if he steals the title, then now Cesaro and Nakamura don't care for him anymore. Nakamura can go back to being a face, which was where he was excelling, and Cesaro could be the maniac wrestler like he's always wants to be, the cyborg,
Mm-hmm. So we all know how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think for
he's
some
a big guy, pal.
No, I know. I feel they're going to take the title off of Braun, but they're going to do something real stupid and induce a Freebird rule for the Intercontinental title for a few weeks until Mania.
On him for the pin.
Well, I think that I've started trying to get back into making myself watch wrestling again. Okay, kind of a lapsed fan. But I watched a SmackDown recently, and Braun Strowman's the Intercontinental Champion right now, correct?
Yep.
And the Intercontinental Championship itself is fucking ugly.
That was a swing and a miss.
That is
I mean,
disgusting looking belt.
I think it looks nice if it was in AEW because it fits their motif. It doesn't fit with everything else because they've cookie cut every other title.
That belt looks terrible. That belt's like a chick that you like see at the club. and the lighting's a little off. And you're like, man, she looks good.
Oh, so,
and then
so
you get up to it, and you're like, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, and you get and you're like, oh no.
No, you're talking about the you're talking about the time in the not that music. You're talking about the time of the night where somebody's playing Stroke It. That's late. Late.
You're referring to what I call stripper hot. They're really attractive until the house lights come on and you see what they really look like.
And then you're like, give me back my $1. I want my $1 back.
You're like, bitch, you should have a fucking. Remember when you used to go to the arcade?
Yeah,
and you would have like the coin belt on, and he'd be like, cha-chink, cha-chink, like you'd give him $1, and then he'd be like, cha-chink, cha-chink, and then he'd give you a couple quarters. Girl, you should have one of them coin belts on.
Now, the Intercontinental title is hideous. Again, after everything Cody did to bring back the original look, and then you brought that gaudy thing out and handed it to, of all people, Nakamura. You know, it was almost like they were screaming, "Look, we know you were used to be in New Japan, so we wanted to make the title look like a New Japan title, but we failed miserably. So just here.
Here's some garbage."
That's what I'm saying. It looks nice if it was an AEW. It's because just the proportions of it and everything, it goes more with how they have the tall belt. W.
Archie,
Was that?
Archie, who's number 9 on your list?
Number 9 on my list would have to be. Hold on, let me get to my list again. Sorry about that. My phone died.
You had one job.
Yeah, I flubbed. But you could actually, Nate, I flub constantly. It's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
It's tied up in its headphones.
Archie's avoiding the list like it's an AJ Styles figure or something.
I think last time we recorded together, he called it the "We Can't Be Plumbers" podcast. So no, it's all right.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Something like that. Number 9 on my list for former good Intercontinental champions. I may not like him right now because I'm not understanding the character. Seth Rollins has been a good Intercontinental champion, though, in the past. So for the modern era, I'd have to say Rollins at number 9.
Rollins is a consistently good wrestler.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can say whatever you want about, you know, how... And that's some of the problem with the modern product, which I won't drone on about it, but you have I mean, amazing athletes and amazing bell-to-bell performers, and they're just booked like shit, you know, so it's not their fault. So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely say if we're talking about the Intercontinental title being the workers' title, I mean, definitely.
I don't even remember him having that belt.
I think he's had 3 times.
I don't remember.
Yeah, Nate, is it 2 or it's like 2 or 3 times, isn't it?
I think it's 3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3.
So, you know, the last reign that he had, though, got really convoluted because they brought him into the tag team with Dean Ambrose before Ambrose was going to leave, and they became the tag champions at the same time. And I'm all for a double champion, but when you...
Oh, wait, was that the summer of Seth and Dolph all goddamn...
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's probably why you checked out, because that was a really long drawn. It was almost as long and drawn out of a feud as Corbin versus Roman was this last winter. But Seth Rollins, though, I mean, whether it was against Dolph Ziggler for the 177th time, Dean Ambrose, you know, the thing of it is, I like a champion, and I'm not a John Cena fan. I want you guys to understand that. I like John Cena, the person, not the wrestler.
Same.
But when John Cena had the United States title and did that open challenge and brought in all the NXT guys and the younger guys to defend the title against, that was great to me because you're showing the guys on the main roster, the fans, new talent. Seth Rollins was kind of doing that as well, but he didn't have a fancy name for it. He was letting younger guys challenge for it. And even though he won, it was a 20-minute classic. And that he reminded me a lot of like Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage, giving guys a chance, even though they're not going to win, they're still getting a shot at the title that they normally wouldn't be getting a shot at.
Yes.
So,
do you know what bugs me the most about Seth Rollins right now, though?
what?
Remember the Monday Night Raw where he ran that like half-show gauntlet match, and it was absolutely amazing?
Yeah, it was like 58 minutes long or something like that.
And now he comes out, and you're like, "Oh, time to go take a piss."
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah, well,
it's,
that's,
it's,
How
again,
does
what you
that
said,
happen?
it's Vince's booking.
it's the booking.
It's Vince's booking.
It's the booking.
But see, again, now I'm. This is the only other thing I'm going to interject about this, and then I'll let you guys talk about Seth. This is what I don't understand. You want quick matches, but you have 3 hours to cover on Monday night. Why aren't they getting 20-minute matches? I mean, you could have two 20-minute matches in an hour.
Because we have to have the retarded ass. I'm going to go steal an ambulance, and I'm going to go do this, and you got to have all this backstage bullshit that still doesn't even help with any goddamn stories at all.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's like vegan marshmallow fluff. It's there, but it's absolutely fucking disgusting.
Good point. Good point.
Aaron?
What?
Anything
What?
anything on Seth Rollins, or do you want to give us your number 9?
I think Seth Rollins is miscast as a motherfucker, but we'll talk about that on Sunday. The next guy on my list is a guy that I'm surprised nobody has mentioned yet.
Well, we're only 2 in.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm surprised nobody's mentioned him yet.
Well, because we actually
because I wanted somebody. Huh?
Because we actually kind of rank ours in like, ooh, you just go names. I can feel the Aaron go fuck yourself glare right now.
Yeah, right? I felt it too.
You could fill a thimble with how much I care about what you just said.
He told me he was gonna Bobby Heenan you tonight, Woods. So there you go.
But anyway,
I've missed you too, Buttercup.
Anyway, the guy on my list that I'm going to mention next is a guy that I'm surprised nobody's mentioned yet, and it's Razor Ramon.
He's on my list.
He's on my list.
He was actually next on my list.
Well, like I said, should have mentioned him.
Razor Ramon, man.
Maybe you shouldn't make a fucking list. Maybe you should just speak your mind and say who you feel, man.
Oh, my God.
Early 90s, the fucking Intercontinental title was Razor Ramon's belt. That was Scott Hall's fucking belt. It didn't look right on anybody else other than Scott Hall, in my opinion. Razor Ramon.
5 title reigns, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
He was the first one that won it 3 times and the first one that won it 4 times.
And never had a bad match.
True.
Like he would be the best thing about some bad pay-per-views. And it just, like I said, the belt just looked right on the guy. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people say, oh, that guy was the Intercontinental Champion, but he should have been the WWF Champion. To me, like, Razor Ramon as the WWF Champion wouldn't have looked right.
True.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be talking about my ass. I don't want to be talking about my ass or whatever, but I just think that
I don't think it would have looked right, but I think the fan base would have ate it up.
Oh, yeah.
they probably would have.
And if they stripped him,
and I honestly think it probably,
gimmick,
I think it would have went over better than Nash.
Probably.
well, I mean, Nash had his niche for a couple of months, and then people just grew bored of him because he wasn't really wrestling anybody capable. It was Mabel and Yokozuna was who he was challenging. So a big lumbering guy versus a big fat guy, it didn't work. But I think had they stripped the Razor Ramon gimmick from him, not completely because that was Scott Hall, and made him like more like he was in WCW, he could have won the world title in WWF. Like let him go bare bones, and just be himself. But yes, he was a great Intercontinental Champion. I think my favorite title win of his was when, and mind you, I'm an HBK fan, when Shawn lost his smile and got beat up by the 9 guys in Syracuse and had to hand the title over to Shane Douglas at In Your House pay-per-view. And then they're like, oh, wait, you have to defend the title tonight. And then Razor Ramon walks out. You know what I mean? And after 15 or 20 minutes, beats Dean Douglas clean. And he looks at the camera and he goes, it used to be 3, now it's 4. He holds up the 4 fingers, and it was like, wow, this guy is legit. So,
I agree, and a lot of people say that fucking Shawn Michaels had a match with a ladder at WrestleMania 10. It's like, no, there was another fucking guy in there.
They both made that match.
They made that fucking match.
Both of them.
Really
the one at SummerSlam was just as good.
Yeah.
The one at SummerSlam was better.
Yeah, and people talk about like Brett's matches with Diesel. If there's some Razor Ramon Diesel matches when Razor was Intercontinental Champion, they were really good.
Well, those 2 guys, they knew each other backwards and front and trusted each other to do anything with one another, so they were going to let each other tee off.
And Razor, Nate, we've talked about this a lot. Razor was the Intercontinental Champion in an era that the WWE doesn't like to talk about a lot. Mm-hmm. Because they weren't setting records. They weren't setting ratings on fire. They were selling out the fucking Fern Gardens or whatever that had like 2,000 people in it, if that. Like Razor was the Intercontinental Champion at the time that when you would watch Monday Night Raw, you could see the back wall of the arena or the building they were in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's an era that gets discounted. But Scott Hall, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels were the fucking ring generals at that time. And I think that's part of the reason that Scott doesn't get talked about enough, because he was the Intercontinental Champion in a time that company doesn't like to look fondly back
on. My number 9, and then we will take our first break. And I think as the list goes on, we're gonna have a consensus.
I'm just saying, I'm not wrong about Razor Ramon.
No, absolutely not.
No, not at all.
Razor Ramon.
I had him in my top 5. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had him in my top 5.
He was number 6 on my list, so we were all in agreement on the big
number 6 on your list, number 1 in your heart,
Chico. Number 9 on my list is, and I have to say, it's kind of like Chris was talking about Rick Rude. Like one of my first memories of wrestling, the Intercontinental Champion was the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Wow, good call.
I can dig it.
I had him as my number 1.
Okay.
I had him at number 3.
I didn't have him on my list.
I think Randy, and I can see why you wouldn't have him on your list, Aaron, because I debated about putting him in the top 10 just because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand history of the championship, he actually wasn't the champion that long.
But he made it so goddamn important.
Yes, and that's why
that one match made the Intercontinental title bigger than it could ever have been.
Exactly. Yes.
Steamboat.
Him and Steamboat is probably my 3rd favorite Mania match ever. My 2 favorite Mania matches ever are Angle and Michaels at 21 and Taker and Michaels at 25. But Savage and Steamboat is right behind that. And it is, like you said, it's probably the most iconic Intercontinental title match ever.
Definitely.
And Savage, and this is taking nothing away from Steamboat, but Savage felt like he was the champ. And Steamboat's title reign probably could have been better had it not been for politics and Steamboat's wife and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not taking anything away from Ricky, but he's not in my top 10. I know...
Ricky was kind of a... Never mind. Won't say that.
But Savage, just to me, like I said, for me, it's kind of like Chris was mentioning with Rude. It's just kind of an iconic image in your mind as a fan.
Right. Well,
what I'll say... the reason Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say the reason I had him at number 1 is because out of everybody on my list, he was the one, he made that title, he took it, and that was his world championship. Mm-hmm. The fact that, granted, it might have been a count out, but as Intercontinental Champion, he beat Hulk Hogan.
Right.
He did everything. That's probably why I didn't have him so low on my list. I had him as number 1 because the way he presented himself, it wasn't the workhorse belt when he had it. It was
the main title. Right. See, my thing with Savage is, and I'll go back to what Nate just said, one of the most, if not the most iconic Intercontinental title matches of all time. And it was because Savage made that match. If Ricky would have went up against anybody else at WrestleMania 3, that would have been an ordinary match, and it would not have been talked about. People would have been like, who did Ricky beat for the Intercontinental title? And you'd have to go Google it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they brought the house down, that by the time it got to Hogan and Andre, the fans were still cheering, but they didn't pop big until Hogan slammed Andre. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
because they were spent.
Right. They were spent. Exactly. And it took that big moment for them to go, ooh, okay, we want to be in this again. But it was because of Savage and Ricky Steamboat that Mania was so big, in my opinion. And Ricky
Hogan
champion.
I think it was when King Kong Bundy squashed that little midget.
Good point. I think it was Lord Littlebrook. I think he squashed or something.
He squashed little Beaver.
Beaver.
I'm kidding. I know it was when Macho Man and Randy Savage had their match. But Bob Uecker was like, yeah, there's a lot of little Beaver running around here. It's one of the best lines in commentating history.
Without a doubt. And it's Bob Uecker who delivered a lot of them, but definitely one of the best.
In March of 1987, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant brought 93,000 people into that arena. But in 2020, in March of 2020, the reason we love that pay-per-view is Steamboat and Savage.
Yep.
Hogan and Andre,
and Bundy smashing that Beaver.
And Bundy smashing that Beaver with Bobby watching. What a crazy night that was.
To just end my point, Savage may not have held the title long, but Savage had that title and brought prestige to it, because at that point, people were still going, what's an Intercontinental title? You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was like, where did he win it? Rio de Janeiro? What tournament? What? You know what I mean? It was like, and then Randy Savage got it. It was like, oh shit, this guy's a champion. You know,
right.
And it was the lead way into him being a champ of the world heavyweight champion. So it made sense. It was the perfect.
You give that man a mic, and it was over.
Yeah.
Patterson won it in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
He's a guy that doesn't know anything about smashing Beaver.
And now the Intercontinental Champion might be El Generico. So there you go. All right. That joke fell flatter than a plate of piss. All right, guys. We are going to...
I understood what you meant, but I don't know. It wasn't that great.
They can't all fucking be good. Jesus. All right.
You're right about that. I'm sorry.
Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself, Nate.
We are going to take our first break of the show, as much as I'm loving it. And when we come back, we will have more of our lists of favorite Intercontinental Champions. And I'm making a list as I talk to these three guys about douchebags. We'll be right back with more
God, we're all on it.
of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Well. You can't wrestle. So what did you do? You went out there and you started a podcast. You got that right. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And I am Brian Pillman Jr. The We Can't Wrestle podcast is a podcast about wrestling and a bunch of guys that don't know how to do it. But I, Brian Pillman Jr., am very good at pro wrestling, so I don't need to start a podcast called the We Can't Wrestle podcast, but I'll gladly put my name on the brand. I'll gladly go on the line to say that the We Can't Wrestle podcast is one of the most informative, most balanced, non-biased podcasts out there. Thank you very much, and have a good listen.
All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Aaron is Mick Foley horse laughing me right now, like a prick.
Mickey DiPaolo made a card that nobody knew about.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Sometimes it's better off the air than it is on the air. But we are talking Intercontinental Champions this time around on the show. And we have covered quite a few so far. So now we're going to see, I think as I said, the list goes on, we're going to start knocking guys off each other's lists. I know I've already knocked Cody and Savage off of mine, Razor Ramon, Chris Jericho. So Chris, you are next. Who is next on your list of favorite Intercontinental Champions?
Chris Benoit.
I did not have him on my list.
You said it. Ooh.
Chris comes on the show. Chris comes on the show, and everybody's like, dun 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 dun.
It's okay. I don't get a paycheck for this. I can say here while I want.
Yeah, we don't. Nobody gets paid to be here anyway, so you can say whatever you want.
If Vince ever picks this up for the network, then we'll dub out the Chris Benoit line.
Yeah, it'll be Gomboshnik.
Yeah.
But that being said, Chris, go ahead, and I'm going to be more in agreement than disagreement with you because I have a position on Benoit at this point that is probably very similar to yours. But go ahead, Chris.
I have him on my list because the IC title is the quote-unquote workhorse title. Mm-hmm. When he got that title, he lived up to that staple of that title. Whenever that he was going to the ring and that belt was on him, you knew whoever was going to try to take it, they better have packed a fucking lunch.
Yes.
And do I agree and support the man and what he did? Absolutely not. But it cannot. I'm one of those people. What he did and the atrocity that occurred still can't take away what he accomplished and what he did in that ring.
And that's what I was going to say about Benoit. So we'll open the can of worms. Is at this point, do I ever think they should put him in the WWE Hall of Fame? No, because
that's a stupid argument. Like people, Chris Benoit should be in the Hall of Fame. No, he shouldn't.
He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because a lot of times it's about more than what they did in the ring, and also the Hall of Fame. No wrestling Hall of Fame. There's not, whether you're a WWE person or a fucking Dave Meltzer person or whoever, other than the one in Des Moines or whatever that has an actual building, there's not a real wrestling Hall of Fame anyway. It's all subjective. WWE should never put him in the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame is a publicity stunt anyway. However, can you discredit what the guy did in his career before he became a monster, before he did what he did? Absolutely not. He was one of the greatest wrestlers that ever lived. So I will not discredit what Chris said because I agree with what he said. When that guy came to the ring, you knew you were going to get a good match, and anybody that says that they didn't now is a fucking liar. And that's my stance on it.
And I'm in the same boat, like where people are like, "Oh, I can't even watch his matches anymore." It's like, no, I can still watch a Chris
You're
Benoit.
not a wrestling fan.
I can still watch a Chris Benoit match. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that, I don't think about it, but I can, once the match starts going, I can watch a Chris Benoit match and still enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk too much
It's
about
tougher.
it. I'm just saying.
Let me say this: it's tougher to watch Benoit after like 04, if that makes sense. Like, because you're getting closer and closer to the tragedy, I guess. But that's kind of I like the early stuff. It doesn't even. I don't know.
I'm more different than that.
Well, see, like for me, Benoit was my gateway into WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first started watching WCW, he was who I seen. So that's probably why I'm of the opinion that I am, because when I started watching WCW, there was this Chris Benoit dude, and he was a fucking beast then.
See, to me,
I was like, oh shit.
See, to me, it's easier, like with what Nate said, with like after 2004 or whatever,
right.
To me, it's easier watching Chris Benoit in WWF than it is watching him in WCW.
Because you don't have Nancy around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. And I get past it. I'm like, I'll get past that. But that's weirder. And it's going to get into like a whole wormhole that I don't want to talk about.
I'll say this, Benoit. Benoit, the wrestler, was a great wrestler. Was by far he was the standard bearer in a lot of companies. I first saw Chris Benoit in WCW in 1992 when he came from New Japan for that few months, and then
watch that match he has with Too Cold Scorpio.
Right, everything was a Clash of the Champions, and they those guys blew it up. I mean,
they were fucking fantastic.
That had a great catch can match, and then went to the air, and you were like, oh, they do this too, but then he disappeared, and then I was flicking my first ever vision of ECW. I was flicking through the channels, and I got on a channel they were on. I didn't realize we even got that channel, and it was Chris Benoit lifting up Sabu and dropping him on his neck.
One of the I don't mean to cut you off, Archie.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, that's what I was going to say. My first, and I remember the Scorpio Benoit match.
Right.
Hindsight.
He wasn't a big name,
right?
He was still the young up and comer.
My first vision of Benoit as a major player is the promo video they did after he broke Sabu's neck, where he's in like the denim vest jacket. And he's doing the thing with his hands, and he's cutting that very slow, deliberate promo that captured my imagination. And that's what I always say about wrestlers. I like a wrestler once they capture my imagination. Until they capture my imagination, they're just a guy on the show.
Nate, this is going to sound maybe stupid. You guys might say I'm stupid, but he was in the Triple Threat in ECW with Dean Cohen and Shane Douglas back then. And every time he cut a promo, I always said, man, this guy should be a horseman.
Yeah.
And then he went to WCW and became a horseman, and I went, shit, this guy proved himself. Mm-hmm. But then he came to WWE in an incredible storyline, which they actually painted that storyline of them leaving WCW and going right to WWE with no compete clause or anything like that. And he caught fire. And Chris Benoit I agree with Chris when you say that the Intercontinental title is the workhorse title. Yes, it is. But I've always also seen the Intercontinental title as a stepping stone or a foot in the water. Meaning, if they put that title on you and you do great with it, guess what? You're in line for a world title run somewhere down the line. And Benoit did that. He won the Intercontinental. He won the European. He won the tag, and then next thing you know, he wins the Royal Rumble and he becomes the world champion. So he used the Intercontinental title for what he needed to, for his purpose. So he was a great Intercontinental champion. As far as the whole devastation and what he did to his family, it's horrible. It's ungodly. Do I believe there were other factors involved? Yes, but that's another story. I think after the, there's that show that comes on.
Oh, Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. I think after that episode airs, Nate, you need to do a We Can't Wrestle podcast about it. We could talk about it then.
Definitely.
It's going to be really awkward, too, because apparently Jericho is actually narrating that episode.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of weird, but, how someone so close to what was going on could do that, but whatever. I'm interested to hear what Chavo said, has to say about it, because he talked to him and whatever, but as far as Chris Benoit, the Intercontinental Champion, goes, he was a great Intercontinental Champion.
So, Archie, that brings us to the next person on your list that has not, if it has not been knocked off of your list.
No, has not been knocked off my list, and it's going to be weird. We're going to get a little weird here. He's a favorite.
I want to tell you, I'm going to isolate that clip right there.
Okay.
We're gonna that's gonna be the beginning of the show from now on. Just Archie going. Weird. It's gonna be a little weird here. Go ahead.
Our buddy Patrick Mansonetti loves this guy, and even though he was only champion for like a month, the storytelling behind that title reign and that title win was epic, in my opinion. Marty Jannetty.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good choice.
It's a Marty party, baby.
Yeah, and
I don't want to go to a Marty party, buddy.
Shout out Patrick Mansonetti, who might be. He says he's not a fan, but I think he's the biggest Marty Jannetty fan I've ever met in my life. Marty left after he got thrown through the window, and then all of a sudden attacked Shawn Michaels outside of Monday Night Raw, and they battle, and he fights Shawn at WrestleMania, but he can't get the job done. And Sherry turned on Shawn, and then all of a sudden he comes back and fights him on Raw again and wins the title with Mr.
Oh, when
Perfect.
He's wearing the hoodie? That's good shit.
Yeah, they told the story for that belt more so than I've seen them recently tell a story for anything. And that even includes, Rusev and Lana.
Yeah.
The storytelling behind that title change was amazing.
And it's okay, Shawn and Marty never had a bad match. Obviously.
Nope.
And I have to, this is a sidebar. We do lots of sidebars here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, those of you listening for the first time. But at the Royal Rumble 93, Shawn and Marty have a title match. And this is even before what Archie's talking about, where they had the Monday Night Raw angle.
Right.
One of my favorite Bobby Heenan lines is, Shawn throws Marty into the turnbuckle post with Marty's shoulder, and Bobby says, "That'll make your shirt fit funny." But anyway, he's
Bobby going, they'd never break up. They'd never break up.
See, I told you. I told you, Monsoon.
It'd never be great. And then he throws him through the window. He's like, "Oh, I knew he was going to do that."
When he says Jannetty's a coward, he tried to jump through the window. God, as a kid watching that scene, I was in tears. The Rockers are breaking up. But as an adult, I go, Jesus Christ, that's gold. It's the best line ever from Bobby Heenan.
Other than Don Rickles, Bobby Heenan's the funniest guy that's ever lived.
And the great thing about Bobby, though, is where you don't get it till you're older, and then you're like, "Oh my God, this guy! Oh my God!"
Chris is right, because as a child, I remember hearing that line and going, "What? I don't understand what he's talking about." But then you fast forward 30 years later, and I go, "Wow, this was so great! Wait a minute."
Royal Rumble.
Then when Bobby goes in the Hall of Fame, and he gets up there and everybody's cheering, and they're like, "Oh, yay, Bobby. And he's like, thank you. You wouldn't offend me with cash. You could just leave it up here on the carpet."
Or when he he mentions his wife. He mentions his wife Cindy, and the crowd cheers. And then he goes, "Oh, hold on, you haven't had the meatloaf."
Yeah.
Another great Bobby line is when Sherry stopped dealing with Shawn because she got hit with the mirror, and after the Marty match, she runs backstage, and you could tell he wanted to look in the camera and deliver the line because, yeah, that's right, run you skank, and I'm like, wow, he held no punches. He really was mad that she left Shawn, you know.
And I'm sure Gorilla went, "Oh, you stop."
Right. See, that's the other thing about wrestling, and I'm sorry to get off track here for a second. The announcers made wrestling so much better. Yeah. Whether it was Gorilla and Bobby, or Jesse the Body Ventura, or even Roddy Piper on commentary, they just gave you more. And when you got whoever that guy is, the lead announcer on Raw, I don't even know his name.
I believe his name is Vic Joseph, but I believe I know him.
They got rid of him.
I believe I know him as Welcome to Monday Night Raw.
Right.
It's like NPR, for Christ's
sake. Right.
You know who was underrated? Like, I love Gorilla and Bobby. Okay? Love them. Vince and Bobby's underrated.
Vince and Bobby on Monday Night Raw with Macho Man was a great 3-man commentary group.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they were. But even just Vince and Bobby by themselves,
definitely.
They were really good.
You know,
I think they did Superstars, right?
Yep.
They were really good together.
Care who he was teaming up with. Bobby was happy to just be on commentary when he wasn't out at the ring managing somebody. You know, and then now you look at AEW, and I know, Nate, you hate Excalibur.
Yeah, I hate Excalibur. He should go rob a bank so he gets arrested.
Tony Schiavone is
AEW should just be Taz and Jim Ross.
Yes.
Oh, so he can get everybody's name wrong? Or call Nyla Rose a man like 8 times and then have to make a tweet how he didn't mean to offend her?
Well, I could only see her through one eye.
Yeah.
Sorry, I made a Bell's palsy joke. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm
happy you used to have had one eye. By God.
Nate, I'm happy you made that joke because I was about to go off on Nyla Rose, and I don't think we want your listeners to hear what I have to say about her, or him, or it, or whatever. We'll just leave that alone. But back to Marty Jannetty.
Circling back to Marty Jannetty.
That was the most off-road, back-on-track swerve ever.
That's okay.
Vince Russo ain't got shit on that swerve.
Trust me, you don't want to hear me bitch about Nyla Rose, so we'll just go on to Marty Today.
We'll have
things are swinging left and right. Let's not talk about Nyla Rose.
Right.
Oh.
We will. We'll have Archie on the We Can't Wrestle live show sometime to talk about Nyla.
All right, but I told you I'm not wearing sleeves. I'm gonna not wear sleeves in honor of Kyle.
In honor of Kyle. Don't know if he still has the coronavirus or not. We'll find out Sunday, folks.
What are you talking about? Oh my God!
I got the Mandela virus. He doesn't drink Corona.
You know what I got? You know what I got?
What do you got?
What do you got?
I got the Budweiser virus.
Budweiser virus. All right, Aaron, who's next on your list?
Next on my list is a guy that I know everybody's going to say, so I'm just going to say it now. And we were talking about a person that would take the championship and make it their own. It's the Honky Tonk Man.
Fuck you. He was next on my list.
I actually didn't put him on my list.
Yeah.
I literally didn't put him on my list because I knew one of you two, if not both, were going to have him on yours.
That dude made that his world championship.
Yes, more than anybody ever, probably.
Because he knew, I'm never going to get higher than this. And I should have never been here. And I'm not knocking him. That's not a knock on Wayne Ferris. Wayne Ferris understood the position he was in and knew I shouldn't be here right now. But I'm going to make this the most entertaining thing on the fucking show, and that's what he did.
As silly as it sounds, and you may disagree or agree, I'm going to compare this Honky Tonk Man, what Aaron just said about the Honky Tonk Man, I'm going to compare it to an actor. Aaron and I are both students of comedy, and Aaron, tell me if you disagree, but I would say that Honky Tonk Man is Intercontinental Champion, and like you said, this is where I am, and I'm going to make the best of it. I don't have 100% the look. I don't have 100% this. I don't have 100% that, but I'm 100% me, and I'm going to make this work. Honky Tonk Man's like Fred Willard.
What?
Fred Willard.
Nate.
What the fuck?
Nate.
What?
Go fuck yourself. That was the worst comparison I've ever. Really, Fred Willard?
Yes. Because Fred
You
Willard.
got fucking broke Aaron. Way to go.
Fred
You
Willard.
broke Aaron.
Hold on. Stop. I'm going to make my case.
No, you guys didn't break me. It's just somebody else yelling at Nate. That's not me.
Hold on. I'm paying for the fucking server here, so I'm going to make my point.
Okay, go ahead.
Fred Willard is not. He doesn't look like a leading man. He never gets the leading role. But everything that he's ever in, he's the best thing on the show.
And you remember.
Fred Willard. The Honky Tonk Willard.
All right, next guy on my list.
Shut up.
We're totally going away from on.
Hold on. Douchebag list. Aaron on Honky Tonk Fred Willard. Okay, we got that now.
No,
You're the douchebag in that situation, brother.
I'll chime in for a second, and I will say that the Honky Tonk Man was a great Intercontinental Champion.
The greatest of all time, baby.
I think.
Wait, hold on, guys. If I would have to compare the Honky Tonk Man to anybody, it would be Fatty Arbuckle.
What?
Oh God! What exactly?
I'm just saying that's how fucking lame it was that Nate said fucking Fred Willard.
Fred Willard. You know, here's the crack up. I haven't heard Fred Willard's name said in 10 years. And Nate was brought out.
That's what I do. Hasn't anybody figured out on the Weird Facts fucking obscure reference guy yet or not?
Well.
Back to the Honky Tonk Man.
If I had to compare the Honky Tonk Man to anybody, it would be
Vin Diesel.
Brett Butler. The fuck?
God damn it. Get back to the fucking conversation.
Honky Tonk Man was a great champion. I hated that they had to let him get run over in like 8 seconds by the Ultimate Warrior. Again, crushing a title run like that great. They could have at least let it be a 5-minute match. But my only problem with the Honky Tonk Man is it's a one-dimensional character, and there was never any room for any growth. Like, he was never going to be a face.
He's a one-dimensional character.
And I look at it as he was always meant to be a heel, which he played the heel to the T. He was perfect for it. And with Jimmy Hart, he was great. But they kept trying to add to the character, like
the coolest
Greg
thing
Hammer Valentine with him. Didn't work, you know.
Rhythm and Blues should have been bigger than what they were. And if Greg Valentine would have gave a shit about it, they would have been great. The best thing about the Honky Tonk Man was that he was an Elvis impersonator.
Oh, yeah.
Who the fuck Elvis was.
Right.
Like, to him, he was just like, this is me, man. And then they're like, oh, you're trying to pretend to be Elvis. I don't know what the fuck
and
Elvis.
that was so Fred Willard of him. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I see Wayne Ferris on TV, I think fucking Mighty Wind. Or when I see Fred Willard on TV, I think fucking dude that owned the fucking lunchbox on Roseanne. Oh. Or no, he didn't own the lunchbox.
No, that was That was his husband.
That was Martin. That was Martin.
And it brings me back to Martin Mull, which reminds me of Jimmy Hart. It's like Jimmy Hart and Honky Tonk Man together were like Martin Mull and Wayne Ferris together.
Oh, but wait a minute. Wait, Aaron, to add to your point, when they put Greg Valentine with them, it was sort of like Dan Connor on Roseanne.
Because they were both fat and unattractive. It worked.
It worked. Nate, I'm sorry. But I just... I'm sorry, Nate. But
Let's
that
see,
was
what is that?
The worst comment you've ever made.
Let's see here. 14 minutes I gotta cut out of the show. Okay. There we go. Marked for edit, ready to go.
On my list, Wayne Ferris, people that compare Wayne Ferris to Fred Willard.
Are you really saying that Fred Willard isn't good, Aaron?
No, I'm not.
That guy's funny as shit.
Oh, I think he's funny as shit. But your comparison was poop.
All right, so now the next person.
Think of it, The Undertaker always reminded me of Benny Hill, but another episode.
Archie, I hate you. Oh, beer up the nose fucking hurts.
So I guess I'm next. The next person on my list, because I had to mark off the Honky Tonk Willard, is
Fred Willard.
Goldust, Dusty's other son.
Bastard child. Good choice.
I think
good
that
choice, actually.
I think that.
You know who you always remind me of?
Oh, for Christ's sake,
Roland Alexander.
Oh, the fat guy from Beyond the Mat?
I don't even think Aaron knows who we just said. I think you just put two names together.
No, Roland Alexander was actually a promoter that started Maven in the business.
I'm sorry. Roland Atkinson. Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean.
That's behind me.
So this is where we're going with the show now. We're just going to go completely out.
Well, you took it off the rails, motherfucker. You said Honky Tonk Man was Fred Willard.
In all fairness, I never think it was on the rails. I think we were just on really wobbly training wheels.
To the audience, join us next week for Bad Wrestling Comparison.
I think I might rank number one with everybody. Goldust, Intercontinental Champion. What do you think?
Dustin as a character, when he became Goldust, for the first 3 weeks that they ran those vignettes, I didn't realize it was Dustin Rhodes.
And honestly, I thought that it was. I remember thinking it looked cheap.
When he took his hair off, I was like, what the fuck?
Right. What, that wasn't his real hair?
The first few weeks, it just looked really cheap. And then, once they got their groove with it, then I was like, okay, I see you. This is all right. Oh. And then by the time he became Intercontinental Champion at the Rumble in '96, I was totally into the character, and I thought that he personified. You know, he did what he aimed to do, and he became that character, and he made you forget about Dustin Rhodes. And then he won the title, and then he goes through the feud with Piper. Which was, you know, people can say what they want about the cheesy, you know, the O.J. Simpson thing at WrestleMania and everything, but it was a cool feud. And anybody that denies that is lying. And then, you know, with the stuff with Ahmed Johnson and I mean, I just think that first reign he had as Intercontinental Champion was some of the best stuff of like that mid '90s WWF.
Well,
you know,
it definitely gave the Attitude Era. Right, it gave the Attitude Era a different look because before then it was just tits and ass, and now you're looking at a guy who's being openly bisexual or gay, doing these things, and what he did to Razor Ramon, driving Ramon crazy, was like, wow. what Piper and him did, and then he pushed Piper to the point where Piper had to become his old self, where he would do anything. And then against Ahmed Johnson, I literally thought Ahmed Johnson was out to kill him after he gave him mouth to mouth. I thought Ahmed Johnson. I was like, did this guy go off script?
Right.
He did, actually. That's the rumor anyway.
Yeah, because he literally uttered the word, the gay word with the F. I don't want to say it because it's a really bad word.
And surprisingly, being Ahmed Johnson, you could actually understand it too.
Right. Right. But he said it and they didn't bleep him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, is he completely off script about to kill Dustin Rhodes right now?
And you're coming out of the era of the Mantar and the Goon and all this hot garbage, and then you've got this character of Goldust, and now all of a sudden he's the Intercontinental Champion, and it just, to me, it changed. That character changed wrestling even before, and I'm not in any way saying that the Goldust character had the impact that the Stone Cold Steve Austin character had. But the Goldust character, I think, was the character that
helped.
Yes, it made Vince see outside the box.
Oh, and Austin was feuding with Goldust too, so they both played off of each other because Austin and Rhodes have a history from WCW, and Vince knew that, so he was able to let them wrestle each other, but also let Goldust be the maniac freak that he was being.
Right.
So it worked. It allowed Austin to be a redneck who was beating ass, but then Goldust is trying to hit on him, but also beat his ass at the same. It played perfectly with one another.
And then Austin put him in a porta potty. But yeah, I just think, like I said, during that era, Dustin did some of his best work, and he was a great.
Which at the end of the angle, we realized that Goldust liked it in the can.
Yeah. Yep. Not to bash on like every character, but that's what I do. When they stripped him of Goldust and made him Dustin Runnels.
Oh God!
They didn't want him to use Rhodes for some strange reason.
And and I know you're talking when he was against Val and it was the religious thing and it was boring.
It was boring, but then here was the thing: he leaves WWE. He goes back to WCW, and he bitches that they made him into Goldust, and he didn't want to be 7. So then he goes back to WWE to be Goldust again, leaves WWE again, goes to TNA this time, and bitches that he didn't want to be Goldust anymore, and becomes, what was it that he became again?
Rain.
Black Rain. And then now you look at him in AEW, and he's got the red face paint. It's like, dude, you love being in face paint, so just admit it.
You
Stop
love
saying
Goldust.
that WWE forced you to be
Plus,
Goldust.
when he was in WCW, that 7 character could have been pretty cool.
If they wouldn't have thought he was a pedophile, yes. If they wouldn't have made that pedophile-looking vignette, it would have been absolutely cool, but it would have been a total Undertaker ripoff as well. So,
Well, I mean, how much more heat can you get than being a pedophile?
But see,
might have turned the company around. Who knows?
This was the thing, though. This was at a time WCW had standards and practices up their butt about everything they were doing, and they knew if they let that get off the wrong way, and him.
Jim Barnett was like, "My boy, that's the best gimmick ever."
So I mean, but as far as Goldust goes, great character. They kept building him up, and he was a perfect Intercontinental Champion when they let him hold the title and actually do something with it.
So, Chris, you're next on the list. Who's next?
Shawn Michaels.
All right.
You stole my number 2.
Just knocked off my number 4.
Aaron, was he not on your list?
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to say somebody stole my number 2. That's weird.
Well, I said that on purpose.
I left it there.
You stole my shit, motherfucker. All right, let's elaborate on HBK as the Intercontinental Champion.
he's on my list because previous mention, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, the whole Shawn Razor story was just wow.
Gold. It's some of my favorite wrestling memories is those two guys feuding over the Intercontinental title.
Should have feuded over the world title as well, but they didn't want to let Razor stay in the company and didn't want to pay him what WCW was going to.
And I will say this too. Shawn is the Intercontinental Champion. We talked about Savage and Steamboat, and I know Aaron is not the biggest fan of the other guy in this match, but to me, up there with iconic Intercontinental Championship matches is the Shawn Michaels Jeff Jarrett match at In Your House in July of '95.
Was that what Jarrett was
is
with
guess
the rope?
what? I call Fooey, sir.
What's that?
Just guess what? I call Fooey. Just guess what?
What, Fooey?
Jeff Jarrett was on my list.
Oh, dang.
He's on mine as well.
Damn. Well, so that's a thing, okay? So
Suck it.
that match is that's my favorite Jeff Jarrett match. And it's one of my favorite IC title matches ever. They have a fucking barn burner of a match in Nashville. And Aaron and I reviewed the pay-per-view a couple of weeks ago on the show. But definitely, Shawn is one of those guys that, again, during your formative years as you're watching wrestling, he's one of the guys up there with Razor and a number of others that personifies that title, the workers' title.
I could agree with that. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan, top to bottom. I like his work. I think that he does an incredible job, no matter whether it's with the title or without. The Intercontinental title was one of those belts that he won and then held for a great deal of time. And then when he would lose it, he would always lose it to, a decent opponent, or at least keep the feud going that he'd win the title back from them. My only problem with Shawn Michaels as the Intercontinental Champion, and I will say this, even if we ever have a favorite world title top 10, Shawn never liked to really lose to a lot of guys. And whenever they would tell him it was time for him to lose the belt, he'd always have to lose and then leave. Or he would end up giving the title away. Like like I said, he handed it away because he said 9 guys beat him up in Syracuse because he didn't want to lose to Shane Douglas, who was the next in line to be Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, and that's
because
one.
Douglas had heat.
That's one of the few things that, even though he's one of the greatest performers of all time, bell to bell, that hurts Shawn for me is the politics, is the attitude.
Didn't want to lose to Brad, so he bitched and moaned and then just gave away the title because he lost his smile. Didn't want to lose to Shane Douglas, so he gave it away. It's like, how many times could you leave the title? And still, and that's my only problem with Shawn.
That's why I think that Shawn Michaels is his most iconic moments in his career are from probably 1993 to 1997. However, the best time of his career is from 2002 to 2010.
The comeback, exactly.
Yes, because he was Shawn Michaels being Shawn Michaels without the fucking garbage.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, Archie. And Chris, we totally boxed you out of your pick.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you guys are good. I mean, he was one of the ones that he just deserved to be in the top because from what I remember when I was younger, him getting that title, it helped establish the whole he's his own person now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It did.
He wasn't a rocker anymore.
Right.
He was Shawn. He's one of the few that, because there's another one on my list later on, in my opinion, is the epitome of how it's the stepping stone. I have one more person or two more people on my list that when they got it, they became the true epitome of this is the stepping stone to something greater.
Right.
So Archie, you are next.
Next on my list is another one that's gone too soon, and the storyline between him, China, and Chris Jericho for the title, co-champions, the way he won the title from China, the way he messed around and whatever. Guerrero is next on my list. Eddie Guerrero winning the world title was huge, and him and Benoit at the ending of WrestleMania hugging with both world titles was amazing. But Eddie Guerrero, in my opinion, I think the reason they gave him the world title was because they wanted to, get the Latino audience in, and they felt Eddie was the perfect, sponsor to do so. So I felt Eddie was always meant to be a mid-card title holder, and the Intercontinental title fit him perfectly because he wasn't European, and he was too big to be a cruiserweight or a light heavyweight anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think the Intercontinental title fit him perfectly in so many ways because, a guy like D'Lo Brown winning both the European and the Intercontinental title at the same time was kind of like comedy to me. Not that D'Lo was a bad wrestler, but it was meant to be funny in a way.
Right.
And then he got serious. Eddie won the Intercontinental title, and he had the same reaction as when he won the world title. He got down on his knees and began crying. So he brought emotion to that title that not many other guys were because, as we've said, it's the stepping stone to get to the big time. You're the Intercontinental champion. If you do good, we're going to give you a run, kid. We're going to see how you do. But Eddie was happy to have that belt around his waist.
Eddie Guerrero is, and anybody that's listened to the show a number of times knows, Eddie Guerrero is one of my 5 favorite professional wrestlers of all time. And Eddie Guerrero, and I've mentioned this on the show a million times, when I watch Eddie Guerrero, I smile. And that's the point.
Yes.
And I always have thought, and I've never said this on the show, and I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to see what you guys think about it. Eddie, and this is not discounting the other guy I'm going to mention, but Eddie...
Please don't say he reminds you of some other actor.
No, he's not going to remind me of Rick Moranis.
I think of Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero is...
I think of Harold Ramis.
Oh, God.
God damn it.
Eddie Guerrero is what Tito Santana could have been if he had Shawn Michaels' charisma.
Good point.
Because I look at old Tito Santana stuff and I see the fire, but then I see the interviews and I'm like, he just doesn't get me with the interview. But when I watch him in the ring, it's like, God damn, this guy's fucking good. I mean,
when I see Tito Santana, do you know what I see now when I see Tito Santana?
Let me guess.
I see Titty Santana.
Oh, yes. Join the Facebook
Tito is
group.
actually on my honorable mention.
Join the
Titty Santana.
Join the Facebook group, folks, and you'll get the joke.
Titty Santana was the best.
Best autocorrect ever.
Arriba!
Areola.
I like it.
His catchphrase is, "Tough kitty," said the titty. Well, go ahead.
All right, Aaron, so we covered Archie's Eddie. What's next? Who do you have left on your list? I have 3 left on mine.
Well, I'm going to go with Don Morocco.
You fucker. That was actually next on my list. Don Morocco.
I did not have that on my list. Wow.
If you talk pre-expansion, WWF. Don Morocco, and I'm going to go on a limb here. Don Morocco had Hulk.
Everything is going down.
Don Morocco, if WWF would not have signed Hulk Hogan, and you watch pre-expansion WWF, he would have had a babyface turn, and he would have been the guy. Now, whether or not that would have worked as good as Hogan, I don't know. But if you watch it, like, he was the best heel in the WWF from probably 1982 until the Hogan era. Like, he was the man.
See, like, I'll go different with what you said, where you said if they wouldn't have hired Hogan, if they wouldn't have hired Piper, which I just told you I'm a huge Piper fan, okay? Don Morocco is the Yang to the Piper Yang, where, like, like Roddy Piper yelled everything and was bah, 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 like in your face. Morocco brought you down and would make you listen.
Yeah, like the kind of the promo style that Jericho has mastered.
Yeah, where I'm gonna talk softly, so you have to fucking shut the fuck up to hear what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And his feud with Snuka and all that shit, it was fantastic. And him, Morocco being in that, we're going to bring this guy in here and interview him now because he's going to go into this match in the Garden tomorrow night. Let's talk to Don Morocco now. And then he would cut that fucking promo and just talk you into the fucking building. Don Morocco was great, in my opinion. I wasn't alive during it, but going back and watching it now, in the late 70s, early 80s, Don Morocco is my favorite heel. Love the guy.
I'll be honest with you, I did not have Morocco on my list. And I don't want to say that I forgot that he was Intercontinental Champion, because I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, when I got into wrestling, Morocco was at the tail end of his career, so I didn't get to see him live and in person. Going back and watching him against Snuka and him against any face on the roster, because I'll be honest, I preferred heel Morocco than I did face Morocco.
Oh, yeah.
He was miles apart. He needed to be a heel. You can't be that big and be a face. I'm sorry. But he was a good Intercontinental Champion. And he kind of was that mountain that guys had to climb over if they were going to beat him. So he makes sense being on the list.
I love me some Don Morocco. Nathaniel David Maxson, who's next on your list?
All right, so I'm next. And I have two left. The first one is I kind of have a 1A, 1B. So my 1B, he's 2 on my list, but 1B in my heart is Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh, gotta scratch him off.
Bret Hart kissing the Intercontinental title, whether he was defending it, whether he was winning it. Again, like we've said about a couple of other guys on this podcast, is when Bret was champ, you felt like Bret really, really loved being champ. Like, that was his life. And another thing that both Chris, Archie have brought up during the show is this belt was made to feel like it was the next step. It was a step up. I'm going to be the guy this is going to be my gateway to being the World Heavyweight Champion. And Bret made you feel that too. And I think a lot of it is not only his bell to bell. I mean, again, iconic Intercontinental Championship matches you have to put in the top 5. SummerSlam 91, Bret and Mr. Perfect. Which was
SummerSlam 92.
Yes, Bret and Bulldog, but Bret and Perfect was 2 of the greatest Intercontinental Champions ever, just doing what they do. And that match, and then I will also say subsequently, and it's not related to the Intercontinental title, and Aaron will know that I have said this since the day it happened, but Archie and Chris, I don't know if you guys have ever heard or know, the moment that I knew as a young wrestling fan that Bret Hart was a star. That Bret Hart was a world champion.
I could understand that.
It
changed a lot.
The moment that I knew that Bret Hart was going to be a world champion was Survivor Series 90.
Oh, and he fought DiBiase in the title?
The last 5 minutes of their 4-on-4 Survivor Series match between Bret Hart and Ted DiBiase. And you watch that 5 minutes, and you know this guy is going to be a world champion. This guy is going to be one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
And he gets pinned, and then he sits up and goes, fuck.
Fuck.
The camera goes, fuck.
But Bret defined that belt before he defined himself as one of the... He's one of the few guys that defined himself as a great Intercontinental Champion and then defined himself as a great World Champion. And he's one of the guys that you picture, when you think of the IC title, you picture it around his waist.
I'll chime in here when it comes to Bret. As a kid, I was a Bret Hart fan. As I got older, I was still a fan in my adult age. I guess it's because I've seen how much Bret has trash talked the industry and so many of the wrestlers. It kind of soured me on him, but it doesn't change the fact he was a great wrestler, best technical wrestler any company has ever had. His career got cut short by Bill Goldberg. Fuck him. This is the way I feel about Bret with the Intercontinental title. It was, again, that like Nate just said, like we've been saying, that stepping stone to see, are you ready for the big time, kid?
Right.
But the thing that personified Bret, you could agree with me, you could say I'm wrong, you could say I'm smart, you could tell me to go fuck myself, it doesn't matter. Bret's feuds with Shawn Michaels, whether as a tag team with the Rockers for the Intercontinental title or when they got to the world title setting, was what defined Bret's career in the WWF for me. Because no matter where he got to, there was Shawn right behind him, and they were always battling neck and neck, and they always had a great match. And that's what made the Intercontinental title so special as well for me. Because you look at all the feuds that grew up from the Intercontinental title to the world title status. Bret and Shawn, Stone Cold and The Rock, Jericho and Benoit. You know what I mean? There was always two guys that were parallel in the divisions as they grew. And that's what made the Intercontinental title so special, because you knew that when Shawn Michaels beat Bret for the Intercontinental title, or when Bret took it back from Shawn, that when Bret finally became World Heavyweight Champion, guess what? Shawn was knocking on his door wanting a title match now because you screwed me over when I was a champion. Now it's my turn.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is the WWE is defined by its rivalries. Hogan Savage, Bret Shawn, Austin Rock.
Willard Murray.
I would put Cena.
Are we on the douchebag list yet?
I would put Cena Edge there.
Yes.
Also.
And again, had to do with the Intercontinental title. Started with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah, it is. It's just, they're iconic, and there's no doubt about it. So, Chris, have we knocked enough off your list where you're down to one yet?
No, because I got random ones that I figured you guys wouldn't get.
Oh my gosh. We gotta get into this douchebag list.
If you put me on it, you're fired.
Next on Chris's list, even though he never held the title, was Chris Kanyon. Just because he knew we wouldn't put him on our list.
He'll hang in there.
Hold on. Who better than Kanyon? He always sounded like he had
my next was actually another one who I feel is a workhorse, always busts his ass whether you like him or not. It was Dolph.
Dolph Ziggler. One of the most I don't even want to say underutilized, because they utilize him all the time, but they misutilized. How's that?
I'm tired of bitter Dolph.
Yeah.
He's been bitter for 8 years, and he keeps saying, I'm leaving, and then he comes back to say, it should have been me. I'm tired of it. But as Intercontinental Champion in his younger part of his career, he was great.
He has fantastic matches, and he's a shitty promo. That's my thing about Dolph.
Well, if you guys are going to talk about Dolph, I'm going to smoke a cigarette.
Not a Dolph fan?
I think Aaron's just leaving. All right. So
go ahead, Chris.
As far as...
No, I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. What?
So, Chris, your rationalization for Dolph. And again, like I said, I think bell to bell, I mean, he's as good as Hart or Hennig in the modern
Exactly.
era.
That's why he's on my list.
And I see that. I totally see that. I just think that he's another guy that, as we talk about modern wrestling, about the modern product, just like when Archie talked about Seth, or I talked about Cody, or what have you, I think Dolph is one of those guys that is... I watch him perform, and I see what I saw in wrestlers in the 80s and 90s, but I see him a victim of current WWE booking.
Yeah, because I'm the same way with him now. Because, like how I mentioned earlier with Seth, remember how he put on that awesome, amazing gauntlet, and now when he comes out, you're like, oh, it's time to take a piss.
Right.
It's the same way with Dolph now. Because, like Archie said, he's played this, I've been screwed over, I'm leaving. Nope, just kidding. They offered me enough money, I'm going to stick around routine so long, people just don't care anymore. They're like, put up or shut up.
And it's also, and you guys can say whether you agree or disagree, but it's also that's the biggest, what do I want to say? That's the biggest fallback to the way that they book 50-50 now, too. Because, like, Shinsuke. All right, let's use Shinsuke as an example. Shinsuke is winning the Royal Rumble, getting a world title match. Now he's had his world title match. Now he is back down to mid-level. Now he's not even on TV for 3 or 4 weeks. You can't book that way. You have to book a star as a star. You have to book a jobber as a jobber. And you have to book a mid-card guy as a mid-card guy and level him up.
I'm not saying that they needed to give him a long title run, but did he have to lose? Like, well, back to Shinsuke Nakamura for a second. Did he have to lose to Jinder Mahal cleanly twice?
Exactly. And Jinder Mahal is a former WWE champion.
And beat everybody.
And
he was beating everybody.
And when was the last time he was even on TV?
Well, he's injured, but...
Would that have ever happened with Stone Cold Steve Austin? This is where we're at, folks.
Well, see, this is what I'll say about Dolph, though. When he was the Intercontinental Champion, and I don't think he's been the Intercontinental Champion in like 2 years, so,
Yeah, because remember him tossing it back and forth with Seth.
Right. Back and forth with Seth, people got tired of it. It just seemed like they kind of tried to make Dolph into the new Jericho, like, oh, we need a random champion for now, and he puts on great matches, so throw the belt on Dolph, because Chris doesn't work for us right now. But he was great in his first couple of title runs, but then all of a sudden it just became who's the Intercontinental Champion? I think it's Dolph. And then the next week he'd lose it to Miz.
Exactly what I said earlier. Yeah, like sometimes... you have no idea who the champion is.
And then, okay, he lost it to Miz, but then guess what? At the next pay-per-view, Miz lost it to Seth. and then Seth lost it back to Dolph 2 weeks later. It's like, what happened to long-term title runs? And I don't mean that towards Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. By all means, get the titles off of them. But, I mean, Dolph Ziggler, they gave him opportunities, and he had problems in the past where he got a concussion or he got injured. Not his fault that he couldn't run when they tried to get him to. I blame Jack Swagger for the concussion and him having to lose the world title when he finally got it.
Right.
But Dolph is like a career mid-carder. He's never going to move out of the mid-card because now Vince gave up on him, sort of like Vince did with John Morrison and is now doing again to The Miz, even though we made him world champion for a year and was trying to do to Alex Riley. And, you know, once Vince loses all hope in you, you have two options. You either go the Dolph Ziggler role, or you do what Finn Balor does and you say, hey, I want to go back to Triple H on NXT.
Right. Yeah. I want to either make this much money per year and do whatever you want me to do, or I want to do what I love to do and do it the best I can do it.
Right. You know, and let's face it, Balor is still under a main event contract, main roster contract, but they allowed him to go back to NXT because because this is what I've heard and I've read on dirt sheets. When WWE sold to Fox and Balor was supposed to be on SmackDown, the Fox people said, oh, we want bigger, larger-than-life stars like Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. So Vince was saying, oh, well, we're going to put Balor on 205 Live. Triple H said, no, you're not. You either give him to me or you let us release him.
Right.
You know, I'd rather him go back to Japan than be on 205.
Yeah, because I host a wrestling podcast and a live show that need to follow the modern product, and I don't watch 205 Live. So
right.
Me neither.
there you go.
I don't even know when it's on. I think it's on the network.
I have no idea.
I think it's on the network.
I didn't even know main event was still a thing.
Right. I was reading.
Neither do the people that are on it, Chris.
I was reading Raw results to see what might have if I missed anything because I fast forward through Raw every Monday, and all of a sudden something popped up. Main event spoilers. I'm like, is that still a show?
It's spoiler to me that it's even alive.
Right. You just spoiled the surprise of me finding it.
Spoiler, it's here.
You know.
205 Live is fantastic.
I don't disagree with that. I used to watch
the commentating crew is great. It's
is it in English and or
no, the commentating team is Fred Willard and
and Honky
John
Tonk
Goodman.
And maybe a dead horse.
No, I used to watch 205 Live when it was on TV, and then when moved to the network, I tried to still watch it. But
the
now
dead horse's name is Ken Anderson or Carl Anderson, because I just keep beating him.
So Archie,
yes,
next on your list.
I have one last name. I can't believe he hasn't been put on anybody's list yet. Because, in my opinion, that belt could have been custom made for him.
It might be my last guy. Saying.
Same.
Mr. Perfect.
Yep.
Kurt Hennig.
You got it. My number one. Greatest Intercontinental Champion ever.
Greatest, exactly. There, you know, it looked like it was chiseled onto his waist.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He never flung it over his shoulder. He didn't drag it on the ground. He didn't lift it up. He had it on his waist, and the towel was over his shoulder, and he looked like he was chiseled in gold. Yes. You know what I mean? And, you know, Kurt Hennig, coming from AWA and being a world heavyweight champion there, I think that he could have been groomed, but Hogan just didn't want to pass the torch to him because he knew if he did, Hennig wasn't letting go.
Right.
And there would never be another Hogan title run, you know, if he would have let Hennig beat him one time. But Kurt Hennig as the Intercontinental Champion, even against, and I don't mean they got in any actual moves against him, but even against jobbers like Dwayne Gill and all those enhancement talents they used to force feed him on superstars and things, he made them look credible taking a beating from him.
He did, and he
allowed them to look good.
Right. Like, the guy would take a snap mirror and then Hennig would roll over and hit him with the neck breaker. And I'd go, wow, that guy really sold. Wow. Damn.
He defines that title.
Yes.
And those of you that have listened to the show,
Kurt Hennig defines being a professional wrestler.
In my mind, Kurt Hennig's the greatest professional wrestler of all time. I mean, he is what a professional wrestler is, and the reason I say that is he has the in-ring ability of a Lou Thesz or a Ric Flair.
Yes.
He has the chiseled Adonis look of a Hulk Hogan or a Buddy Rogers.
Yes.
He has the promo ability of a Ric Flair or a Shawn Michaels.
Him and Bobby Heenan worked perfectly together.
Yeah, they were the prototype.
No pun intended. But he didn't need Bobby Heenan. If he would have never have had a manager, he still would have got over as big as he was.
Yes. Bobby and Hennig are the prototype of what a professional wrestler and a professional wrestling manager and personality are.
Yep, without a doubt.
Like when people say, "Oh, if you're gonna draw a professional wrestler, they would look like the Ultimate Warrior," or if you're gonna draw a professional wrestler, they would look like Sting. It's like no. If I'm gonna draw a professional wrestler, they're gonna look like Kurt Hennig,
and they're gonna sound like Kurt Hennig, and they're gonna wrestle like Kurt Hennig.
And the mannerisms were perfect. Again, no pun intended.
And he's gonna spit his gum out and smack
it away with his hand, throwing the towel over his back and catching it in the front. And see, now Nate, you said wrestling ability was perfectly. Talking ability. But here was the great thing about Kurt Hennig, too. Legit badass outside of the ring.
Yes.
He wasn't acting like he was actually a wrestler or a fighter. The man could have beat the shit out of Brock Lesnar and thrown him off of a plane in the 2000s. They had a legit fight, and he took down Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
You know?
So he could have been Vince McMahon, Bill Watts, and Jim Cornette's favorite wrestler.
Right.
So anybody else has Mr. Perfect on their list?
Yep.
Good for you. If nobody else does, you're wrong.
No, that belt, like I said, the $1 Million Man made the $1 Million belt. If they would have never had the Intercontinental title, and then here comes Kurt Hennig as Mr. Perfect, and he would have had it with him, everybody would have still been in awe and went, wow, what's that? What is that?
Yep.
You know, like he walked in with it. And it was already there for years beforehand. And when he didn't have it, he was still great, but you wanted to see him fight for it. You wanted to see him run, make that run for it. Like, he lost it to the Texas Tornado, and I think Tornado held it for only a few weeks, and Hennig beat him back for it. And I was rooting, because I've always been a heel person. I've never feared for the good guy. And I wanted to see him win back the title, that when he won it back, it was like, good, he's complete again. He's not missing that piece,
Yes.
So, and this is my only gripe with him, and it's not with him. It's the way that he was booked. When he left the WWE and went to WCW, he should have been a horseman. He should not have been in the NWO. He was tailor-made to be a horseman, in my opinion. But when they tried to rebook him, only without the Mr. Perfect name, he was Kurt Hennig, and they gave him the U.S. title and tried to make him that same, it fell flat for me. You know what I mean? He was lost for me in WCW because, yes, he was still Kurt Hennig, and yes, he still had the same wrestling ability, but he was still playing second fiddle to Hulk Hogan. And I feel that when he got to WCW, he should have joined the Horsemen. They should have battled the NWO, and instead of it being Goldberg taking the belt off of Hogan at the Georgia Dome, maybe Hennig should have took the belt off of Hulk Hogan.
And maybe they would have been. And maybe they would have been better off.
You never know.
Good choice, Stomper.
Thank you.
Aaron, what do you got?
I'm gonna call Archie Stomper now. That's his new nickname, Stomper.
Aaron,
you know why? You know why?
Oh no, why?
Archie Gooley.
Oh, the Mongolian Stomper, Archie Gooley.
Archie's the Stomper now.
I like it. I'll take it. At least I'm not Fred Willard.
A little wet wagon. Aaron, do you have anybody left on your list?
Nope.
Mr. Chris, do you have anybody left on your list?
I have 2.
All right.
If one of them's David Arquette, I'm going to be very disappointed.
No. Okay, the next one I had was someone who, in my opinion, took it and ran with it with the same passion that he tried to match the passion that Savage had to make it that this was his validation, this was his chance. And it's honestly what really made everybody take notice. Miz.
That was Aaron, not me. That was Aaron, not me.
You know what? I like that inclusion because The Miz, I think he's about to break the record for most Intercontinental titles held.
Well, the reason I'm thinking about it, think of that episode of Talk Smack.
Yeah, with Bryan, Daniel Bryan.
His whole drive was that Intercontinental Championship.
Yep.
How he screamed and demanded that was the title.
And
to me, that really threw back to how Randy acted when he had it. That was the title.
I'm gonna make a statement, and you can get, if anybody is a Daniel Bryan fan, you can be mad at me. I don't care. When The Miz cut that promo on him on Talking Smack, I lost respect for Daniel Bryan, and I don't look at him in the same light anymore.
Okay.
And I've been watching Bryan Danielson wrestle back to Ring of Honor and Evolve, and when he was the American Dragon. But when The Miz said, all you do is walk away, but you flap your gums when no one's in your face, and you don't know, you don't want to actually get face to face with them because you can't wrestle anymore. If they were setting up to bring Bryan back after all this time, he should have had a legit feud with The Miz based on that promo then.
Right.
So, I agree. The Miz deserves to be included in this list.
And he definitely is. Although he wasn't on my list, I can see what you're saying, Chris, because he was a guy that took the belt, took it very seriously, and for him, at that time, I'm the best guy. I'm the top guy. And I'm going to treat this belt, whether it's the top mid-card title or not, I'm going to treat it as the top title.
Because when he did have the top title, all he was a placeholder so they could build a feud for Cena and Brock.
Right.
And then go ahead and throw my last one out there real quick.
Was somebody playing something?
I went into David Gold's live and he was showing me Josh Blevins with him because they're at that live Rockies live.
Okay.
It's happening.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Rocky Turner, one of the best card makers in the business, one of the best customizers I've ever seen. He is the admin owner of the Nerd Closet, but also a mod in the era and a very good friend. Shout out to David Gold, Nate Maxon, Nick Francis, and the entire Asylum as well. They are great friends of mine, and they are with Rocky at a live show that's happening tomorrow and Sunday that will feature Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Buff Bagwell. They are going to kill it. So
Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Yes, sir.
Let's do this douchebag list.
Wait, Chris had one more before I cut him off. I'm sorry, Chris.
Last one.
Douchebag list. Douchebag list.
Okay, well, my last one was another person who I think was the epitome of taking the Intercontinental title and making it the true stepping stone. to making him become the name, The Rock.
Very, very true. I'm surprised none of us mentioned Austin either, but The Rock definitely deserves on this list because, it was him coming into his own in so many ways. He won it as Rocky Maivia. They booed him out of the damn arena, and then when he won it as The Rock, it was his coming out party in so many ways. He shed the crappy storylines and the character, and he made something of himself.
And as a parting thought on that, before we get into, because Aaron's chanting douchebag, because he wants to wrap this up. I think that the reason that The Rock and Austin, and you guys can agree, disagree, I think the reason Rock and Austin didn't make all of the lists, and Austin didn't make any of the lists, was that although they were great IC champs, we were kind of talking about guys that were almost defined by that title.
Right.
Whereas Austin and Rock
the title
really got defined, although they were great Intercontinental champions, they got defined as world champions.
Well, we said that Jericho was the go-to, put the belt on him because we need an experienced guy to give these young guys some shine. And Ziggler was they would always throw it on him because, they needed a workhorse. Can you imagine if after Austin became a 4-time world champion, if one day he would have just became Intercontinental champion?
Right, and I was going to say, what kind of shits on my excuse there for not bringing those two up is Brett and Sean.
But they still...
And
Brett,
of course,
Sean,
of course Fred Willard, but... So...
I agree with The Rock, though. He made the title his own, and he did what he was supposed to with it.
He did.
I think he had 3 reigns. Another guy who could be included in this list that we didn't mention is Triple H. But the title reigns that he had were very short, and it was always to put somebody else over later on. Like he was a placeholder with the title.
Yes.
And, again, got defined by being world champion. There are so many. I mean, we didn't mention Steamboat. We didn't mention, a guy like the British Bulldog. We never mentioned the British Bulldog. You know what I mean? And it's not because we didn't want to, but like you said, these are names that we felt were the heart and soul of the Intercontinental title division, and upheld it not because you were told you were going to win the title. They wanted to win the title.
Absolutely. So I want to really quick, and then we will go into our list of things that make people a douchebag. We'll go very quickly through that because the show has gone long, as I knew it would, with 4 hosts. But first, Chris was so nice as to compile a list for me for all of you that participated in our poll results for the post that I made for the Facebook group. So your list ranked Shawn Michaels as number 1, with Nick Francis, the Woo Man, Jamin Wooten, and Dave Duncan voting for him. But a tie for number 1, Mr. Perfect, Jeremy Cotton, Michael Herrick, and Chris Fralick. Bret Hart, voted for by Steve Selmanson and Chris Fralick. Razor Ramon, Nick Francis, and Bobby Anders. And then everybody else got 1 vote. The Honky Tonk Man from Dave DeRozier. Todd Ryder voted for Ricky Steamboat. Owen Hart by Tom Melison. Roddy Piper from James Winter. Randy Savage from James Winter. And Todd, because he's the black guy, he had to vote for the black guy, Todd. I got you. It's Ahmed Johnson. And I told Todd it's okay. In this instance, you can vote for the Hawaiian. So we're going to count his vote for Ricky Steamboat. But our leaders were Shawn Michaels and Mr. Perfect from our listeners. Thank you all for participating in the page. We really appreciate it.
Real quick here?
Go ahead.
Ahmed Johnson was one of the shittest Intercontinental champions of all time. In my opinion,
he was
did
absolutely
for the title.
We followed up Gold Dust with Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, it was a really bad title run, and then I think Vince realized that and said shit and pulled it off of him.
Yeah.
Did he say shit and pull it off of him, or did Ahmed break something again?
Yeah, he probably broke something again. He punctured his liver, and the belt fell off his waist. But
With his
and I have to
promo
ask
pic
question.
covered in oil, or his
I have to ask
promo
the question. Dave DeRocha said that he picked a honky tonk man. Nate, can you do me a favor tomorrow and PM Dave and ask him true or false? Is he also a very big Fred Willard
fan? God damn you, Archie Mitchell. And now Aaron chimes in with his fucking cackle. All right.
Hey, Nate, are we gonna? We got two ending themes.
Ending
Two ending
themes.
theme choices.
No, but okay, but
I know we're not ending.
We're gonna end with we're going to end with our non
No.
copyrighted.
Bitch. Listen, because you said I can't do fucking.
Well, apparently we can't use anything because that song's from the 30s.
We can't use goddamn Tootsie. Can we use this?
That's rough on the ears.
Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony. He stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up. Yankee Doodle dandy. Find the music.
Because I asked you about that last week.
If I put that on YouTube and get taken down, I'm gonna be pissed.
Okay. Well, can we hold on? So we can't use Yankee Doodle Dandy?
I don't
For
know.
what?
Huh?
For the outro theme. We were using Al Jolson's Tootsie as the outro theme, and then I found out it was, when I put the show up on YouTube, they told me I couldn't use that.
Wow.
Yeah, like I was like, no, there's no way this is copyrighted. I'm actually marking right now for when I need to edit this fucking shit, because I don't want production notes.
Can we use?
Can we use Caesar's theme? No, I'm just going to use public domain music from now on, Aaron.
So, like, happy birthday?
That's fucking
No,
boring.
I don't know. Happy birthday. If Tootsie by Al Jolson isn't public domain by this point, happy birthday might not be. Some guy in fucking Paramus might own it. I don't know.
Well, here's the ironic thing. If we're going by public domain, I'm going.
We're on a time limit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Maxon, and we're done.
That concludes our Intercontinental Championship countdown. And all of my counterparts, I appreciate your opinions, and I think we brought up a great list, apparently except Fred Willard. So now we are going to talk for just a few minutes about things that we all think. And Archie, I am so glad you're part of this conversation. And here's what I'm saying, all right?
Because he's a cool dude.
That too. But I'm almost positive, and Archie, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, Chris, and I all live in Ohio. We live in Ohio, eh? I am positive that out there.
Pardon me.
That I am out there. I am out there. I am positive that out there in New Jersey there are more douchebags than there are here.
Oh, without a doubt.
There we go. I knew it. I wasn't
in Ohio before.
I wasn't
like
scared.
A week.
I wasn't
Oh,
stereotyping.
brother, Archie, you've been to Cleveland?
Yes.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Have you ever been to Cincinnati?
No.
Oh. Never mind. Cincinnati, if you were going to put the fucking hose in Ohio and give it an enema, it would be in Cincinnati. But really? Cleveland's pretty bad too, but that's okay.
Well, I've been to Cleveland for a week, and I have to say they were all very nice. In Jersey, you don't get nice people, no matter what.
Well, in Ohio, other than Cincinnati, we're pretty cool.
Well, I'm sure. I'll be honest with you. I'm amazed at how many friends I've made on Facebook that are from Ohio. You know, there's like 20 people that I've now made friends with over the last 2 years that are from Ohio, and I'm like, I didn't know that.
Because we have nothing else better to do than be on social media.
Because it's fucking cold, and we're not leaving the house, man.
No, Jersey is bad though. So believe me, I have a lot of things to add to this list. We might be going till 4 a.m.
The fuck we are.
No, we're not.
So, who's starting out? Go ahead.
It better be Aaron, as much as he's been having a fucking aneurysm over this list. Surprised he ain't named off like 4 of them already.
Nate, you can start.
Do I have to?
Do I?
I was just sitting back listening to you guys.
Well, if you guys are going to leave dead air, then I'll start. The biggest thing for me, number one on my list, I'll start at number 1. Biggest douchebag thing you can do is when you cut somebody off while you're driving so that you could make a turn.
So no turn signal.
No. Like, all right, I'm in the left lane. You're in the right lane. You speed up and almost take my bumper off so that at the next street you can turn left.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't in a rush to go faster, forward. You're just trying to get home. Like, what are you in that big of a rush for? You know what I mean?
Well, not just that.
Shit. Have you drank drinking water?
Not just that, but you know your fucking exit.
Right. Why were you not in front or behind me before this? Why did you wait till the last minute?
I agree with that one. Okay.
So that's the one thing you'll note. If you guys were ever in the car with me, you would be like, this dude has serious road rage. So when that happens, I want to run people off the road.
It's like, where are you trying to get to so fast?
Right. You're turning. You were trying to turn left or right. So, like, you could have waited an extra 30 seconds. But
yeah, it's like, are you trying to get to work? Like, I don't want to get to work that fast.
Okay, you know what?
I'm going down to get to work.
I'm going to jump the list again and do my second one.
Okay.
Traffic at 2 p.m. is like the biggest douchebag thing for me in the world because isn't everybody at work? Like, I went out Monday, the 1st, and at 2 p.m. on the highway here, there was bumper traffic for 45 minutes, and all I kept thinking is, don't you people work?
Don't you people work? Yeah, and you know what?
And see, that's fucked up because Archie, where do you live?
New Jersey.
You live in New Jersey. What city?
I'm in Roselle, New Jersey.
And like, if you would estimate the population of that town, what is it?
In my area, I think I would have to say there's about 1,500 or 2,000 people.
Okay.
However,
the town that I live in, guess what? There's like 12,000 people.
Okay.
At 2 o'clock,
right?
It takes for fucking ever. Like, you and I shouldn't be in the same situation.
Right. But
exactly.
That's what I was going to say is I'm sure that being where you are in Jersey, whether it's 1,200 people or not, you obviously have a more dense population area than
I'm 25 minutes out of New York City, and I'm an hour and 20 minutes out of Philadelphia. So everybody who's going to work in the major cities have to cross through where I am. But I'm saying at 2 p.m. on a Monday, there should not be traffic because you should be at work.
I feel the same goddamn way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be on the road I should be seeing a ghost town in front of me and be like, wow, I got a whole road to do what I want on. You know what I mean?
And I feel the same way. I'm in a town with 12,000 people, and I'm stuck behind a truck. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Right. And I always ask the same question, and my wife loves to laugh at me when she's in the car with me. I always say, "Where is everybody going?" And she'll look at me and go, "Well, obviously they're going somewhere." And I'm be like, "No, that's not what I mean. Where are all these people going? You know, like
what
are
they doing right now?"
Right. You know, if it were Friday, like a weekend, I could say, "Okay, no big deal."
Yeah, they're trying to get to the fucking Olive Garden. I understand that.
Right.
Fucking
not
Monday.
on Monday. Not on Monday.
Salad.
Dude,
So,
Nate, I feel connected to the Stomper right now.
too.
I feel connected.
Who's next?
All right, I'll go next. All right, so you're standing in line at the gas station. You've already stood in line long enough through like 2 or 3 people. And then there's some guy, and he's paying for his cigarettes or his zigzags or whatever the fuck.
Is he buying lottery tickets?
No. No. This isn't the lottery ticket guy because I knew
somebody grunt.
I knew somebody. I knew at least 4 of us would pick lottery ticket guy.
Mm-hmm.
My guy is the guy that pays for like zigzags with cash, possibly quarters, but anyway.
Right.
And that's fine. But then he gets his shit. And he decides that since I'm standing behind him with, as you can possibly tell by my voice right now, a 12-pack of Bud Light, and whatever else I'm buying for my beautiful wife and family at the gas station after I've gotten off work and want to go record a podcast with my friends, he's decided he's going to get his wallet and shit together before he gets out of my fucking way after his transaction. Get the fuck out of my way.
Complete your shit and move on.
Get your shit together. Get your shit together by the newspapers, not in front of, not at the counter. I'm just saying.
I'm going to chime in with Nate on this one.
Yes.
The guy in front of you that decides to pay for his gas and forgot his gas pump.
Yeah, fuck him.
And then also can't fucking explain and describe his own goddamn vehicle. And he's just like, "Oh, that one."
Yeah,
that silver one.
It's the silver.
No, they don't even give a color. They just go that one and point to a full fucking gas station. Like the gas station, it was like, "Oh yeah, I see you drive in that Malibu." Because I have nothing better to do than to stare who pulls in the fucking drive.
Now, I will say this. Jersey
Oh, and now let me get lotto tickets and scratch them right here.
New Jersey doesn't have that problem.
Lottery Man is my guy. I'm done with going out tonight. This douchebag list is going to be fucking phenomenal.
Archie, you said.
Hopefully you guys are ready for a goddamn Iron Man match because this is going to be fun.
No, because I have shit to do tomorrow.
Archie said.
Well, so did I when I was behind the lottery guy. Go ahead, Archie. Sorry.
Before Aaron tells us about lottery guy, which I prefer lottery grandma. But we'll get into that after you tell your side. But New Jersey does not have the I forgot what pump I'm at problem because New Jersey has full service.
Okay.
But the problem we come into is...
Do they wash your windows?
No. It's just basically a guy that pumps your gas. It's actually illegal in New Jersey to pump your own gas. If I try to pump my own gas, they'll arrest me.
Oh, wow.
What is it?
They'll arrest me if I try to pump my own gas. Because they don't know if I'm going to pay with a credit card or if I'm going to, go pay the attendant or if I'm going to just light everybody on fire with gasoline in the way. So, I'm not sure when this happened.
Amazing.
Fucking Jersey, man.
The problem we have is the slow-moving gas station attendant who wants to play with his phone instead of pump my gas when I'm in a hurry.
That's like in Ohio. That's the equivalent of the
cashier,
the Target cashier that says, "I'm on break."
Yep. Meanwhile, her light is on.
New Jersey sounds amazing. Like, is this guy gonna bring me a Slim Jim?
No.
Is he gonna pump my gas?
No.
Or is he gonna set himself on fire? Jesus Christ. That sounds fucking amazing.
I love how Aaron said, "Is this guy going to bring me a Slim Jim?" And Archie was like, "No."
No.
He's going to set himself on fire?
No, it's a health hazard because apparently in the late 80s, some idiot got out to pump their own gas smoking a cigarette. And he literally pumped his gas with a cigarette in his mouth, and the attendant ran over, took the cigarette, ran to the street, and threw it out before he burst into flames.
Oh, wow.
That's just called fucking Darwinism. Let that shit happen.
Well, exactly. Weed out the Nimrod. Weed out the Nimrod before he reproduces and makes more people that want to do that. But
license to breed.
Jesus Christ. Jersey sounds amazing.
All right, so continuing on about gas stations in Jersey, people that are listening in Jersey are going to be like, we already knew this, Archie.
Yeah.
But those of us in the Midwest, in flyover country, we're very intrigued by this.
They say, "I want a candy bar, not Allah Akbar."
No, it's really one of the
Christ.
I'll be honest. It's the stupidest law I've ever heard of because when you're in a rush to get to work or anywhere,
you're in Iran. What?
Yeah, you're in Iran. Being held against your will. No, when you're in a rush trying to get to work or wherever you got to be, and you're at the mercy of this gas pumper who refuses to get off their phone, it's like you want to go out, grab the nozzle, put it back in the gas machine, and pay him and drive off. But if you do that, they could literally call 911. They could dial 911 and say you were trying to either make away with not paying or whatever they want to spin their story to be. So,
wow, that's crazy.
yeah, I actually argued with a gas station attendant last week. I pulled up and I said, "Give me 10 regular, 10." I do that because I'm sorry, but not most of them speak English. So I'll do a hand gesture to say 10 or what I'll say it out loud. And he looks at me and he says,
and he's like, "You want me to steal second base?" If you're like making like hand gestures.
That's for your gas station, dude. My name is Philip. How can I help you today?
He spoke, actually, this is what blew my mind. He spoke perfect English, and he said, "Okay, give me the $10. And I said, "No, pump my gas first, and then I'll pay you." He's like, "Why? Don't you trust me?" And I looked at him dead in the eye, and I said, "No." And his exact words to me were, "Then get the fuck out of here. I'm not pumping your gas."
That escalated so quickly.
For an
I gotta get out of here. I don't have any gas.
For an Ohioan,
give me the $10.
I literally jumped out of my car because I'm a hothead, and I got in his face and I said, "If you don't pump my gas, I'll call the police and I'll say you're refusing me service." He's like, "Go ahead. I'm the owner of this gas station and I could refuse service." He spoke better English than I do. He said, "Go ahead. I'm the owner and I can refuse service to whoever I want." And I said, "Wow, that was like the best argument you could have given me." And I literally got in my car and left.
For an Ohioan, that is the most New Jersey thing I've ever heard.
If I told somebody, "Pump my gas," and they were like, "I can refuse you no matter what. I'm the owner of this gas station. Get the fuck out," I would have been like, "Oh. Sorry.
Oh, you're okay."
And I've been like, "Sorry," and I just would have drove away.
I did. That's why I said
be like, "God damn it, fingers crossed. I'm gonna get to the fucking Sunoco down the road."
Exactly. I wasn't on empty. I was able to make it to another gas station. But I got baffled by two
Thank
things.
God it wasn't 2 o'clock.
I was baffled by him speaking perfect English, and the amount of argument he gave me, I couldn't argue back with, so I just gave up and left. See, this is the other thing about me. If you give me a good enough argument, you might just shut me up.
Yeah.
But if you can't argue with me and you just look at me and go, then I'm gonna keep going on until I have nothing else to say.
Dude, Stomper, if somebody can give it back to me the same way I give it to them,
right.
I would just be like, touche, motherfucker, and I will walk away. And I will give them mad fucking props.
Yeah, definitely. If you shut me up, then you know what? You deserve it. Go ahead.
Yep.
You want
I would say, tip of the hat to you, sir, and I will leave.
You won this rap. You may not win the next one.
I'll be back next week. I'll be back next week with a better argument.
Right.
Right now, you
have totally $9.
Yeah. All right, so Chris, what's your contribution to the douchebag list?
Oh, see, Archie just did your job, Nate.
He did, and I love Archie. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Archie.
I was trying to help Nate get back on track.
Because Nate just pooped.
I added on to Nate's about the whole person at the cash register at the gas station. Now I'm going to elaborate on Archie's, how the douchebag thing about flying in front of you to cut you off to turn.
Right.
My thing is the people in front of you that feel the need that they need to come to a complete stop.
Yes.
Pull into a parking lot.
Yes.
Especially the
complete stop to do anything.
Especially the minute it starts fucking raining. Jesus Christ.
A complete stop for anything but a
stop to do anything. Even if they're going to go into a turn road. It's like, why did you completely stop?
Right.
If there's not a red light or a red sign, you just keep fucking going.
It doesn't even matter. Just fucking turn.
State of Ohio, where as soon as it rains or snows, people will be living here their entire life. And as soon as one of those two things happen, they're like, oh my God, there's shit coming from the sky. I don't know what I'm doing.
This has never happened before. It's locusts.
Wait. You mean that's not just a New Jersey thing?
No.
I thought only New Jersey gets freaked out when there's water or solid water coming from the sky.
No, sir. I have lived in Ohio my entire life, in both metropolitan and rural areas. I have driven in those areas, and no matter what situation you're in, no matter how long they have lived here, the first time it snows that year is the first time it snowed
ever.
It's
a miracle.
That's the bad part, though. Nate, you need to elaborate. The first time it happens, it's the first time it happened ever.
Ever.
But right now, with the weather we're having right now, it's all melted. The second that shit falls again, all over again, it's a hard reset. Oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's fucking.
You would think these fucking pumpkin seed motherfuckers would know how to fucking handle the shit, but they don't.
Right. I ask myself a question every time I'm driving and some idiot does something totally and utterly stupid in front of me. How did you get a driver's license?
Yes. How?
Because
it had to be.
I know how they do here. I don't know how they do in New Jersey, but I know here it's like they know the mayor. Like they shovel his walk. So that's how they got it.
They take the test for you in Jersey because they're afraid you'll blow something up.
No. In Jersey, guys, in Jersey, you have to pass a written exam. And this is if you're a teenager.
People can't
16,
write.
Written exam at 16, and then at 16 and a half, you begin to do 20 hours of driving. In other words, you have to go to school and do 20 hours of driving, and they log it for you. And then when you turn 17, you can go in it and take your driving test to be a driver. I've taken this test in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, I'm a United States citizen. I was born and raised in the United States. I know how to read and write. I failed twice in Pennsylvania and once in Jersey. But yet there are people that I see in front of me that look like they're 100 years old, and they're driving like an idiot and don't know how to, like Chris said, when you're coming to a turn or pull in a parking lot, it's not a complete stop. It's like slow down to 5 miles an hour and then pull in. You know?
Well, in Ohio,
I don't know. In Ohio,
all you gotta do is know how to blink. In Ohio, all you have to do is know how to blink and dance the Macarena.
Well, then I'm moving to Ohio.
You're a goddamn truck driver now, man. You're good.
And in Ohio,
they'll let you haul, Archie, if you can blink and dance the Macarena. They'll let you haul fucking
Dino Bravo custom figures. They'll let you haul an entire trailer of them.
No, I thought only Jersey was like that though. When it snows and it rains, like
oh no, it's
goddamn man.
Right, I have one
people here just running in the back of each other, and they're like, "Oh, yeah. I got decapitated yesterday because ran into somebody."
Because there was this thing called snow. I don't know.
All right, I have one to add for the douchebag list. The person who goes to the supermarket and stocks up like it's the whole, it's like it's the apocalypse when they know it's about.
Oh,
that's here. That's here. Jesus Christ, man!
I was in the market. I was in the market 3 days ago, and they said it might snow. They didn't say it was 100% chance. They said we're preparing.
It's probably gonna snow.
Inch, right, 2 or 3 inches of dusting, but it might blow off by tomorrow. In the market, there was a woman with 4 carts filled to the brim, and she had a child attached to each cart so they could push her. And all I kept thinking is Jesus coming back and I'm not aware?
Aaron and I both work retail management.
Like, why are they buying eggs? Okay, I get milk. Okay. No, listen. I get milk. Okay, I get milk. You can put milk out in the snow, right? And it's gonna stay cold. Okay, I get the milk. Why the fuck are you buying eggs? Like, if the power goes out,
right,
and the gas goes out,
right,
what are you gonna do with 15 dozen eggs? You just have raw eggs now.
Right.
Well,
like,
all right, Rocky Balboa.
Unless you're running up a fleet of steps in Philadelphia.
Yeah, all right, Rocky Balboa.
You have no use for all those fucking eggs.
No, it's Ohio. People know how to cook shit on a spoon.
Hillbilly Jim and Hulk Hogan.
Unless you have heroin, you have no need for all those fucking eggs.
Hillbilly
Jim. You can
put
the egg on the spoon and cook it on the spoon like it's like a little skillet.
Yeah, but wait a minute. If you have an egg on your spoon, then you can't cook the heroin like Aaron just said. So what do you need to, like, I mean, I don't know.
2 spoons.
What if they don't know?
I understand the milk. I do not understand the eggs.
Okay, you understand the milk.
Because now you're surrounded by 15 dozen spoiled fucking eggs.
I watched a woman. No, I lied to you. It was a man. I watched a man pull up with 2 carts. His first cart was filled with every kind of food you could think of. Frozen, fresh, whatever. The next cart had about 16 cases of Gatorade. And all I kept thinking is, I'm hoping he's a football coach, or at least some kind of
right. Or this is gonna be the most hydrated motherfucker.
He's gonna make it through the snow.
Since Fred Willard, this is gonna be the most hydrated motherfucker since Fred Willard.
Guys, the very next day, It was 60 degrees and sunny. It never snowed.
And this guy's like, what am I going to do with all this Gatorade?
You ran it off, man. He was like, I got this.
Oh, okay.
I got my douchebag list.
All right, go for it.
I'm really doing this.
I'm going to have to cut out here soon. It's almost 2:00.
Oh, fuck off. You're listed in my douchebag list.
Your douche rag?
Listen, all right.
I hear dead air.
Yeah, me too.
My first thing on my douchebag list is people that don't use their turn signal.
Okay.
No, you save those for when you get in the accident. That way when you get hit, you can flip it on.
Right.
While your car is sitting on the side of the road.
Okay, well, I feel like you guys are doing what I said was going to happen, where they were like, oh, no.
No, I agree with you. I hate the person who leaves their turn signal on even after they've made their turn.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I've literally watched that shit happen. Like, after someone got rear-ended, they flipped their turn signal on. I was like, are you fucking serious?
I'm here. That's the I'm here sign. They're hoping someone will see them.
All right. Does anybody have something they want to add to the douchebag list?
Right now, we've been adding. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The next thing on my douchebag list is people who talk on their speakerphone in public.
Yes.
I will elaborate. Holiday season, people that go holiday shopping and don't know what the hell they're getting, and they're on their phone in your way the whole goddamn time.
Let's do. That's definitely.
As a retail manager, I will also say anybody that shops after 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway.
Especially since shopping now starts in September for Christmas.
Exactly.
You have 4 months.
I will have Christmas trees in my store in August.
Next week.
Right.
You
Here you go. You want to hear Meg go crazy?
motherfuckers.
Go ahead.
Douchebag award, when you have the customer that comes up to the register either on their phone or throws their money at you when you tell them the total.
Yeah, one of my cashiers, and I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to go longer here, but one of my cashiers the other day said, "This guy just threw his money at me when he checked out," and I said, "You know what I do in that situation? I just get up on the counter and start twerking."
No, to add to Aaron about being on a speakerphone out and about. I've never heard people have such intimate conversations on a speakerphone as I thought I would.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Like people just be like, "Oh."
2 weeks ago, I was dealing with a dude breaking up with his girlfriend on speakerphone at Barnes & Noble.
I heard a man ask his wife, "Are we sure he's gay?" And I'm only assuming they were talking about their own child. Because he saw me look at him and walked away. And I didn't care, but it was like the way "Are we sure he's gay?" And I went, "Wow, did you really want to say that?" In my head, I went, "Did you really want to say that in public?"
Well, this dude at Barnes & Noble, he was doing the scream pleading shit on speakerphone, walking through a bookstore. Everybody's just stopping and looking at their book and just staring at this, and he's he's doing the nervous breakup pacing, so the entire store, every aisle, on speakerphone, going through this fucking drama-filled breakup, and I'm just like,
he hangs up the phone. "Where are your books on murder?"
Nate, anything for the douchebag list? Or I'm going to do another one?
No. We've covered all of mine.
All right. Next one on my list, slow walkers.
I'm going to elaborate on that. I'm going to add to that. Someone who walks in front of you swaggering. They're walking like slow, but they got that like real like you know what I mean by swagger. It's like they got yeah, you know what I mean by that. And it's like you want to get
they're almost taunting you.
Right. They're begging you to bump into them so they can say
I want
something.
to knock you on your ass right now.
Right. Now, there is two kinds of swagger though. There is the supermarket swagger where
supermarket swagger is the worst. It's like
I'm
just trying to grab my Cheetos, bitch.
No,
fuck
I'm going to disagree with you. The Walmart swagger for me is the worst, and here's why: you can't be fancy in Walmart, and I don't mean that in a
I understand
discount shit. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to get great value Fritos, bitch. Get the fuck out of the way.
Right.
I want the real ones.
You know,
okay,
it's
I would rather deal with the swagger than the congregation of Karens who see each other at the store and they're like, "Oh my god!" and they stop right in the middle of the fucking walkway.
I haven't seen you since 1992, so we're just going to decide to have our high school reunion right here in the fucking frozen fish aisle.
Wait, though. You just said we haven't seen each other since 1992. The truth of the matter is they saw each other yesterday. Acting like they haven't seen each other since 1992. I mean, I live in like I told you, it's not the biggest area. You know what I mean? The next biggest town is like 20 miles away. But when I see the same people at Walmart every day. So when I see them like congregating and talking and doing, like, why couldn't you do this at your home? Why did this have to happen at Walmart? You know, why did it have to happen in public?
Oh, I agree. I've seen Nate at Walmart and just been like, fuck him. And he's my brother.
Okay,
and I've just been like, I got shit to do.
Fuck him. I'll talk to him later.
And we've made eye contact, and I have known that I've seen Nate at Walmart, and he's seen me, and he's just been like, fuck him.
Okay, see, now you can get away with that. You can get away with that, saying you saw your brother in Walmart and was like, fuck him, I'll talk to him tomorrow. I went to the mall 6 months ago, and I was not even in the mall for myself. I was actually sitting on, like, the husband chair because my wife was shopping. And a friend of mine saw me. No, I was not holding her purse, no. She was shopping. She had her purse so she could shop. And a friend of mine bumped into me and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just waiting for her to get done and whatever. He's like, okay, we're going to have a couple drinks later if you want us. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I get home and there is an angry text message on my phone from my brother. And he's like, you were at the goddamn mall and you didn't say hi to me? And I'm like, I didn't even know you were in the mall. I was downstairs in front of a makeup store. I didn't walk around. He's like, no. Frank said that he saw you downstairs and you knew I was there and you were avoiding me. I'm like, dude, if I would have known you were in the mall, I might have came to see you to do something less boring. But
at least a nod.
You know, I was at goddamn Sephora. Do you really think I was having a good time?
Right. Yeah, I'm
like, if Nate would text me, you were at the mall and you didn't come and talk to me, I'd be like, no. You're right. I didn't come and talk to you. That would have been fucking terrible.
You'd have brought up Fred Willard and blah, blah, blah.
I would have had to sit outside of a fucking goddamn Bed Bath and Beyond. It's like, Jesus Christ. I'm not even getting any of that. So why would I do it? Like, I could understand if I'm going to, like, you know, get some action off of it. But no, I'm not. So fuck that. I'm gonna eat Dippin' Dots and fucking fall asleep.
And Jim Ross is gonna be like, "What did the Dippin' Dots ever do to you?"
Not the goddamn Dippin' Dots.
But that'll be on the We Can't Wrestle live show. we're gonna.
So
wrap...
the next thing on my list.
Damn, Aaron's got more. All right.
Wait,
I do.
Hold on, Aaron. Wait, hold on, Nate. The Dippin' Dots line that JR said. That's a T-shirt already.
It is. And you know what? Honestly, it popped me. It was funny. It was really funny.
No, it was not.
Oh, it was funnier?
It was bad.
Smacked down tonight.
That's okay.
Funnier?
No, I didn't mean it in a mean way, Nate.
No,
I
know.
And Aaron
Aaron
could have done.
I know, Archie, and Aaron. That's okay, because if any profit is made off of this show, I will put it in my pocket.
He's like, I took the abuse. I'm taking the money.
I got a little profit in my pocket going jang-a-ling-a-ling.
But no,
Shut your ass.
That's some Georgia Satellite shit.
I mentioned this on, I think, the first podcast I did with Nate. AEW is because it's got part ownership with Pro Wrestling Tees. The minute anybody says anything on Wednesday night, it becomes a T-shirt Thursday morning.
Yeah.
What the hell? Oh, shit, it's a T-shirt Wednesday afternoon because they rehearsed it Wednesday morning.
Right.
Because they're wearing it when they say it.
Excalibur is commentating, and it's like, so I'm a fan of wrestling. And then there's a T-shirt. There's a T-shirt the next day that says PFFFFFT.
Right.
Excalibur fart. Yes, you're right.
You know, it's like, all right, the Chris Jericho a little bit of the bubbly was cool. That I understand that being immediately a shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That was an performed line that he just did off the top of his head. Okay, and it sold well, but not the Dippin' Dots, really. You know,
and you think
who's buying that shirt? I want to know who pre-ordered that shirt.
Or the fact that as soon as Moxley won the belt, he put a Moxley
wearing Mox World Title shirt. Yeah.
I was like, "What the fuck is this? A Super Bowl? Did y'all make shirts up for either winner?"
I thought the same thing, Chris. I couldn't understand it. Like, really? They had a shirt waiting for him to win. So what if he didn't win? They were just going to scrap 40 million T-shirts?
I know that they completely took the, like, oh my God, he did it element out when he threw that shirt on. I was like, wow, okay. Thank you for
This isn't predetermined, right? All right, Aaron, go ahead. I'm sorry, I took over again.
It's okay. Thank you for your permission.
That's the next douchebag thing. People that take over my list.
So the next thing on my list is pricks that take over the list.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Me as well.
That's a shirt. Print it.
Does anybody have another thing that they want to put on the list?
One more, and then we're going to sign off.
No. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You can go fuck yourself with 8. We'll do a fucking part 2.
You go fuck yourself right now.
Take your best and post the other 7 on the page. Get people to subscribe.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, here's another thing on my list. All right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys ready?
People cutting off my list.
No. Here's a quick one.
Quick.
People that are politically correct.
I'll elaborate and add on that. People who try their hardest.
I hate politically correct people.
I hate people who get offended by anything.
Anything.
When you say people that are politically correct,
it's funny.
Being offended is a choice.
Right.
Oh, when you say people that are politically correct, do you mean the people that are politically correct, or the people that correct everyone else to be politically correct?
Both.
Yeah. That was a good question, actually. You know, look, we were brought up, I'm sure, in the same time frame. We're all around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
We were brought up by George Carlin and Sam Kinison and Andrew Dice Clay and Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if you
and Bill Hicks. Don't forget Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks.
He was great.
Jeff Foxworthy. Can you imagine if Jeff Foxworthy would try to do "You Might Be a Redneck If" in this day and age?
It was clean. If he did clean, but that was some good shit.
Hold on, if Foxworthy did "You Might Be a Redneck If" today, they'd be like, "Well, you like Biden."
Right.
You might be a Southern American if.
Okay, Bernie. Yeah. Fuck modern American.
You might be a Jewish American if.
Fuck modern American.
It would be
anything.
Hebrew American. Hebrew American.
No, everybody's offended by everything. Let's reboot everything so we can unoffend people by something that was made 30 years ago. And let's make sure that we include everybody, but yet uninclude people that are not what we stand for. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's ridiculous.
And to conclude that, and to conclude this, we're going to have to continue with the douchebag conversation later, because we got to end this show.
I have one more on my list.
Hold on. Okay. Before you do that, because of what Archie brought up, I want to tell everybody right now, that is why you do not have funny comedy today.
Right.
Because
there's funny comedy out there.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is.
There is funny stand-up. There is not funny.
Okay.
There's not funny mainstream.
There has not been a funny comedy movie made in 10 years.
Okay, comedy movie, yes.
You could never make Blazing
That's
Saddles.
why I said there's not funny mainstream.
You could never make Blazing Saddles today, which is the funniest.
I'm just saying, Hannibal Buress is funny.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about stand-up. I'm talking about movies or sketch comedy. You couldn't make that today. You couldn't make Blazing Saddles today. Eddie Murphy couldn't do Buckwheat today.
No.
And because we don't want to laugh at ourselves anymore. We want to be morally. Go ahead, Arch.
Shows like Mad TV and A Living Color would not be on the air in this day and age.
Oh God, no.
Okay, can you imagine if Jim Carrey is no longer funny? Adam Sandler is no longer allowed to be funny. He's got to be a serious actor now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Eddie Murphy is not Eddie Murphy anymore. He did Saturday Night Live recently, and he redid all his old skits, and he had to be real PC about it. And guess what?
Yeah, it wasn't
I chuckled
funny.
Once and then went, "This is sad."
Yeah, it wasn't funny at all.
You know.
I'm actually excited, though, because Amazon is bringing back Kids in the Hall.
I hope that it's good.
Kids in the Hall.
It's actually going to be on Amazon only, so they're going to be able to get away with shit.
Hopefully.
Again,
there is one comedian. Okay? One comedian that doesn't give a fuck and will go out there and say what he feels.
Anthony Jeselnik?
Nope.
Oh.
Norm Macdonald.
Well, yeah, but Norm Macdonald doesn't care if he's got a job.
That's what I'm saying. Norm Macdonald is the funniest motherfucker on the face of the planet.
Oh, without a doubt. He's been funny. He's still funny. But, I mean, look at a guy like...
he's also not going to be on a mainstream format anymore either.
Right.
He'll be on a premium aid to get it.
Roseanne Barr got thrown off her own show because she called an African-American woman a monkey and didn't mean it in a derogatory way. She basically was being Roseanne Barr and said, "You're acting like a monkey." That's all she said to her, and literally kicked her off her own show. Now, I understand that could be misconstrued into many different things, but it's Roseanne Barr. This woman sang the national anthem as obnoxiously as possible, and we let her get away with it.
And they probably threw poop at her. So she was like, oh.
You know.
So Fred Willard come out and said, "Let me show you how it's done."
Guys,
you know what?
I'm the Intercontinental Champion. I'm Fred Willard.
I'm gonna
Intercontinental Champion of all time.
I'm I'm
Aaron,
going to
answer me this question. If they did a Married with Children reboot, it would definitely be nothing like the original.
It would suck.
It would
If
definitely
I did it.
Or
unless it was on Netflix,
Right.
Amazon.
Right, on a streaming
But
service.
again, not mainstream.
or it would be like Life in Pieces and get canceled.
Right.
So I'm going to end this show because I'm the executive. Go ahead, Archie.
Let Aaron do his last one.
All right, Aaron, do your last one.
Stop enabling him, you enabler.
Archie is Aaron's Stephen P. New right now. He's advocating for Aaron.
Can I be Paul Heyman?
You can be.
You gotta say it like.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that?
That was Space and Crockett.
Somebody sounded like they were fucking doing somebody's butt cheeks. But what was they doing?
Your last one for the douchebag list.
Oh, the douchebag list is people that are fucking homophobic. Like, I'm as straight as an arrow, right? I love chicks. But I don't understand, like, people that get, like, offended when somebody's just like, oh, yeah, I'm a dude, but I like the D.
You know, Aaron, you just said that in such an unpolitically incorrect way. It's not even funny.
Huh?
I said you just said that in such a politically incorrect way. It's not even funny.
You know what?
The sad thing is, right there, that comment right there, that is how YouTube is going to demonetize this right now.
Yep.
No, like, dudes that like the D, like, why are guys afraid of them? Like, what are they gonna do to you? You know,
Well,
like, are they gonna break into your house and make it more pleasant?
Can I chime in with a quick story, and then I'll be done for the rest of the night, and Nate can end whenever he's ready. Okay.
I want to know what I said that was offensive.
Dudes that like the D is what
Everything.
I found. Everything. All right. So here's my quick story.
It's part of your charm.
When I was 22, I moved back home because I was ready to start, looking for a job in my own house and whatever. And I was single at the time, so I moved back in with my mom and dad. And they lived exactly 4 doors away from a gay nightclub. And I didn't care. I used to walk in there and get cigarettes every morning.
Good music. They probably had incense.
I never was in there in the nighttime. I only went in the morning, like around 2 p.m. to get cigarettes because there was no other store around, and I didn't feel like getting in the car and driving, so I would just walk next door. Probably. And every now and then, when there was no parking in my parking lot, I would park there because the owner said, yeah, no problem. We have no problem with you guys leaving a car overnight, so I would do that. And one morning, my dad got up to go move my car because on certain days you couldn't park in the parking lot past 10 a.m., because the garbage trucks would come in. And so he goes to move my car for me because I got in real late at night, and he figured, save from waking me up.
Were you parked in the rear?
No, I was not parked in the rear. So he went to go move my car, and the bartender walks up to my dad and says, hey, that's not your car. And he says, oh, no, that's my son's car. And guys, you've seen what I look like. I know you've seen what I look like before. This bartender looked at my dad and said, oh, is that Keanu Reeves looking guy that always walks in and buys cigarettes? And my dad said, I guess so. And he got in my car and he pulled it into our lot. He comes upstairs and throws my keys on my dresser. He wakes me up and he says, if you ever park next door again, I'll kick your ass. I said, why? What's going on? He said, apparently one of them like you. And mind you, I'm going back 17 years ago. So that's the way people talk back then. He said, apparently one of the guys next door like you, and who's to say he won't come on to you? I'm like, Dad, you're really freaking me out right now at 10:30 in the morning. Let me have a cup of coffee. He's like, no, do not park next door anymore. I'm like, okay. So I didn't, but then I needed cigarettes one day and I didn't feel like driving, so I walked in there. And guys, I'm not making this up. Same bartender. hands me my cigarettes. I go to pay. He puts his hand over my hand and says, "Oh no, this one's on me." And I grabbed my cigarettes and I walked out at a very fast pace. And I never told my dad because I knew he'd get pissed and be like, "Why'd you do it?" Whatever. It's not that anybody is afraid of guys who are gay or homosexual or anything like that. There are some men and some women who are homosexual who come on very strong. The same way a straight man comes on strong to a woman is the same way that these people who are gay that come on to heterosexual people because they know that they're heterosexual and they're trying to get a rise out of them.
Right.
And to this day and age, it still happens. So to answer your question, Aaron, in my long-winded story, it's not that anyone's afraid or anyone is trying to outcast anyone who's homosexual. I am very understanding. You live your life. You go who would you want, whoever you feel
hold
like.
on. You said, Aaron, live your life.
No, that's not what I meant.
Like you were going to pretend that I'm homosexual. I'm not.
No, that's not what I said. You said you like you said you like chicks before you said anything about dudes liking the D. So, but there are some times when people who are homosexual will come on to a straight person too strong. Now, in that instance, Nate, I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but in that instance, you have one of three options if someone's coming on to you too strong, whether it be a man coming on to a woman or a man coming on to another man. You're either going to get defensive and look to fight and beat that person up. You're going to get hostile and look to argue with that person, and then you're eventually going to call them gay, but in a very derogatory way. Or you're going to get really afraid and run away. You know, those are the only way you're going to really react. And all of them are wrong because either way, it makes a bad outcome.
Right. And that is the way someone is. And what I will say is, in 1998, which makes me feel very old, is that's 22 years ago.
22 years ago, yep.
And I'm very tolerant. But I worked with someone who was openly gay, and his boyfriend, and we were good friends. But it was so funny because there was a guy that came into our store. It was a music store back then. I worked for FYE back then.
Okay.
And this guy came in, and he's talking to me, and he says, and I quote, and this was a big commercial expression at the time, but he said, "Are those Dockers you're wearing?" And I said, I looked back, and I said, "Why, yes, they are. Doesn't my ass look fantastic in them?"
Oh, God.
And he said, "Yes." Now, hold on. It was a customer. And then I walked up to
Nate was trying to make the sale more ways than one.
Nate was not in an alley.
No, shut up. So after that fact, I walked up to my friend, my real true friend, who was homosexual, as was his boyfriend. And I said, "That guy said my ass looked good in my Dockers." And he said, "Well, they do." And I was like, "Yeah, I know they do." And then we laughed. And the point of my story is, I'm not gay. Check out my profile pic. My wife is hot. But I'm not insecure about it. If somebody
That's what I was trying.
What's that, Aaron? No, I was just saying somebody's preference is not an offense to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like, we were talking about, like, douchebag things, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Like, I'm younger than both of you guys. But what I was saying was that I've been in the same boat that Nate was in, where other men or whatever have hit on me before. And it's like, I'm not offended by it, but I'm just gonna be like, I'm not into that.
I mean, it's and you know what? Honestly,
I actually take it as a compliment.
Right, and that's what I was gonna say.
You're right. I'm a handsome motherfucker.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. It's
like if I saw myself in a mirror and I like dudes, I'd probably fuck me.
Okay, Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, Aaron just trumped my friend Willard. But anyway, no, what I was saying was...
Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me.
Christ. I'm not even... You know what? Fuck it. I'm not editing this show. This show is officially the non-edited show. If you don't want to hear it, don't listen.
Maybe you should have said
that. I'd walk awkward after me. Yeah, I'd walk awkward after me.
Nate, maybe that warning of if you don't want to hear it should have been at the beginning of the show.
There you go, Arch.
The last 5 minutes is not going to help anybody.
Well, we didn't want any spoilers.
No, I know I sounded very intolerant in what my story, but my point of the matter is,
no, man, you didn't sound intolerant.
You know, I'm not the type of person. I don't become disgusted by seeing someone who's gay or I can talk to a gay person, because here's the thing: what you are doesn't define you. You may be the biggest baseball fan in the world, and I'll know that if we talk. But that doesn't mean because I found out you were gay, we can never talk about baseball again, because that's two different things. You know what I mean? You may be the biggest wrestling fan in the world, and it doesn't matter. But I will say this: there are some people who do allow their sexuality to define them.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to wrestling with this. David, what was his name? Darren Young, who used to work for the WWE, literally said in an interview he came out as gay because he knew that the WWE couldn't fire him if he came out as being gay.
Well,
and they looked like they were, bashing him for being a homosexual.
That was going to be my ultimate point in that story.
And have you ever been to one of them gay fucking parties? Those motherfuckers know how to party.
They do. I have been in that scenario before. Didn't know it at first, but then
that's
found
a good
out.
goddamn time, man.
Aaron.
Fucking steady and just.
Aaron.
Huh?
Stop. Let me finish my point.
Yeah.
The point of my story.
That's your ass.
When I told the doctor my ass in the doctor's story was that gay couple is still together. They are still really good friends of mine. And the point is, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It has no bearing on anything whatsoever.
Unless it matters to the person that is that.
Exactly. If you don't focus on it, if that's not your focus, if that's not your mindset, it doesn't matter.
You don't have to walk up to me and go, "Hey, my name is Brian. I'm gay." Well, I'm gonna still say hi, Brian. I'm not gonna say hi, gay Brian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And if you
funny about like, hey, what's up, gay Brian?
If you are gay Brian, that's your fucking Memphis.
Right.
That's your Memphis 1984 gimmick.
Now here's the other scenario though. If we've been friends for 6 months and now you decide to tell me, by the way, I'm homosexual. Okay, well, it doesn't change our friendship unless you are telling me you now want a relationship with me, and then I have to say
exactly.
No. You know
if you don't want to have any,
I'm just saying, if somebody comes up to me and goes, "Hey, my name's Gay Brian," like fist bump. What's up, Gay Brian?
Hey.
I'm gonna fist bump him.
Hey. If that's the way, if you're using that as your way of, I don't know if it's a weapon or a defense mechanism or whatever.
It's a you're a fucking awesome dude,
right?
Gay Brian fist bump. It's gonna be fun.
Oh,
all right.
And help me make sure my bedroom matches.
Nate.
Yes.
when you messaged me earlier, you said, "Oh, it won't go over 2 hours."
Lies.
It kind of sort of.
We lost Chris. I think we lost Chris.
No, I'm here.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Hey, gay Chris, how are you?
Oh my God. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap this up.
Not gay Chris.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Oh my God.
I'm sleepy,
you can
Chris.
sleep, buddy. You can sleep.
No, because we're still on the air.
You can sleep.
Aaron.
Nate.
Thank you. Shut up. Thank you for joining us, everybody, on the Fred Willard edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
I'm a honky-tonk Willard.
He's a honky-tonk Willard. That's going to be the title of the show. We will see you next week, and thank you, Archie.
Pleasure, as always.
The best custom man in wrestling figure fandom.
Except for when it comes to Dino Bravo.
Unless... We'll see. We'll see. That's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for joining us, and you will see us on the We Can't Wrestle Live this Sunday.
With our Elimination Chamber follow-up.
Yeah, sure. We'll see. And to Aaron,
It's
who
okay, it's in America.
will have many words to say. Aaron?
What?
He's like, what I do now.
I said Aaron will have many words to say, and Aaron said what? So we're going to sign off for another edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast, episode 89. We thank you for joining us.